which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Northeast Board of School Directors met in executive session prior to this evening's meeting concerning areas permissible under Act 84, which include confidentiality issues protected by law, specifically student matters and legal matters of attorney-client privilege and personnel. If we could have the roll call, the members of the Board of School Directors, Mr. Fox.
We have 9 members present.
Thank you. Agenda revisions? All right, recognition of students and staff.
All right, we're gonna start in this room here.
Students at Northeast are making music thanks to this week's Golden Apple Award winner.
As Lou Baxter reports, this outstanding teacher is inspiring students inside and outside the classroom.
There's always music coming from Mr. Michael Hyde's classroom in Northeast. That is until he's interrupted to be presented with the Golden Apple.
Mr. Hyde, on behalf of Jet TV and Penn West University, you are this week's Golden Apple Award winner. Congratulations, Mr. Hyde.
Mr. Hyde's been teaching here 4 years, teaching music in both middle and high school. And he inspires young people outside the classroom too.
I'm actively involved in the Erie Playhouse and volunteering there, working with the Erie Philharmonic choruses and the youth ensemble, junior Philharmonic ensembles, and helping students beyond our community, beyond here at Northeast. I always want to get back to the community and help share the gifts that have been shared with me through teachers that have been so inspiring and helpful along the way.
While there's a lot of emphasis on science, math, and other STEM subjects in schools these days, this week's Golden Apple Award winner feels there's still an important place for music education.
It really is a model of the world where we get to come from all different parts and places, different skills, different abilities, and work together to create something that's really beautiful.
This week's student nominator says Mr. Hyde's enthusiastic, inspiring, and sometimes persuasive.
It gets me to join chorus, and so I give it a thought. I joined chorus, and now I'm here. I've participated in multiple musicals, multiple plays. Really, he just nurtures that passion, and I really appreciate it.
Passion is another word Berkowitz used to describe Mr. Hyde.
When you love something, you're going to be great at it. And he loves teaching, and he's a good teacher. So good that he's the first Golden Apple winner of 2025.
Big Ideas Learning presenting the Golden Apple winner a big check.
And to see Mr. Hyde and all the inspiration that he gives his students from middle school through high school is just a true inspiration. We're very excited to support his efforts here at Northeast.
Congratulations, Michael Hyde, this week's Jet 24 Penn West University Golden Apple Award winner. In Northeast, Lou Baxter, Jet 24 Action News.
So before I turn over to Bryson, so that was January 8th, I believe, is when Mr. Hyde was given or won the Golden Apple. We originally wanted to do this on the January 20th board meeting, but Mr. Hyde was getting ready for Night on Broadway. We want to do it the first board meeting in February, but I believe you had some students at the MEA District 2 Chorus Festival. So in short, Mr. Hyde does a lot. I think I usually say in the spring, there's a lot of people that work a lot of hours here in the Northeast School District. I'm not sure anybody works more hours than Mr. Hyde, especially when it comes to the spring. He does a ton of stuff. So I'm going to turn it over to Bryson, who wrote the letter that got him the Golden Apple. So Bryson.
Fun fact, I'm a shaky, in public speaking, I can go up on stage, but I can't do it here. Okay. In today's world, it can be rare to find a teacher who is genuinely devoted to their craft. Many educators show up, go through the motions, and leave as soon as the bell rings. Mr. Hyde, however, is a remarkable exception. Every day he walks into the school filled with enthusiasm and dedication, ready to inspire his students through music. Despite his youthful age of 25, Mr. Hyde teaches both middle and high school choir with an energy that sets him apart. His commitment doesn't end in the classroom. It extends to a wide range of extracurricular activities. Mr. Hyde actively participates in vineyard vocalists, school musicals, orchestras, and various other programs, fostering a vibrant community for students who share his love for the arts. Beyond the school walls, he contributes his talents to the Erie Philharmonic and the Erie Playhouse Pit Orchestra, strengthening his own skills and bringing professional experience back to his students. Mr. Hyde is the kind of teacher who genuinely puts himself before others, selflessly giving his time, passion, and expertise to enrich the lives of everyone around him. He exemplifies what it means to be an inspiring teacher and an admirable person, making him someone everyone wants to be around and learn from. These are the many reasons why I'm nominating Mr. Hyde for the Golden Apple Award.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Vice President and Mr. Hyde.
I know you already received the award, but congratulations. Okay, now we're gonna step across the hall to recognize
Oh, I just didn't do it there.
Thank you, everybody. That was fantastic. What a little kid are amazing to see. Mr. Hyde, congratulations. It's phenomenal. All right, moving on. We're going to continue with reports and presentations.
Next up, we have Tyler Wilson, and he is going to discuss our technology projects for the upcoming 25-26 school year.
All right, good evening, everyone. Try and bear with me here. I'm getting over a little cold, so if I have to cough or anything, just keep on. Tonight we're going to talk about our capital projects for the upcoming school year.
Oops. Sorry. How appropriate during the technology.
Right?
Sorry.
There we go. If you can just go to the next slide there. So some of the current technology items we've been working on this year is, this is a big year for us in testing with Chromebooks. All of the online tests, or all the testing will be online this year. So there's a lot of security checks that go on in the background, making sure everything's up to date, making sure we're compliant with all the, state testing requirements. So we've been busy with all that. Secondly, one of our big projects this year is upgrading our district switching network. Think of that as where all of your network hardware plugs in. We last upgraded this hardware back in December of 2016. So it's been going on about equipment. This will not only increase our speed in between buildings, but with everyone having a one-to-one device, we're ensuring that we're getting the best type of internet connection.
Excuse me, Kyle,
Yeah.
I think I disconnected the community, so I just want to double check.
You can come up and look at it.
Yes. Make sure I didn't disconnect them. There. Got it.
We're good.
Could you use the microphone too, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
So that's one of our bigger projects this year is our network switching upgrade. What we're also evaluating throughout this current year and into the next year is for our K-2 students, we switched to Chromebooks back when the pandemic began, just to get everybody on the same page for the virtual learning and whatnot. We're approaching the 5th year, going into the 6th year with those devices. So we're gonna evaluate if maybe iPads are a better solution for the younger kids. So that's on our list of tasks. Some of the other items we've been doing is installing additional cameras as needed throughout the district, just, you know, for security purposes, checking, you know, outdoors primarily. We're also really focusing on our cybersecurity training throughout the district. As you know, everybody gets malicious emails every day that are potentially spoofing somebody else's name. And our goal is to get all of our staff to recognize what's real and what's could be potentially malicious. So we do ongoing training throughout the year for that, and it's definitely helped. And then lastly, I mentioned we're ensuring that our devices and the district as a whole is ready for the online PSSA testing coming up. Another topic we talked about is E-rate projects. For those that don't know what E-rate is a source of funding that we can receive discounts on our network hardware used throughout the district. A lot of it's based on, you know, our enrollment and our percentage of free and reduced lunch that determines how much of a discount we get. We are in the 5th year of a 5-year cycle with this, so we're just trying to tie up any loose ends and use up whatever funding we have left before hopefully that it restarts next year. And we started with a fresh slate. So this year we're bundling in a lot of our network switches as well as different UPS replacements. These are devices that will keep our network online in event of a power outage, keep our cameras running and whatnot. And a little bit of network cable replacements here and there. Go to the next slide. This slide generally highlights what I'm proposing we spend per building and then the final number as a total. Each year we try to keep our teacher and staff devices in a 5-year replacement cycle. So typically one building will have a higher number just because it's that building's year. So if we start on the top left for our elementary school, we're upgrading some office computers in there, trying to get everyone switched over to a laptop. That way, during inclement weather, if you know we have to work virtually or remotely, we'll have that full functionality for us. So a couple systems need upgraded there. I do have down some iPad replacements. These are typically used in our learning support classrooms, where a Chromebook may not be the best device to learn on for students. Moving down, our middle school, this is the big year for the middle school. Our teachers have had their devices for 5 years now, and it shows. With any technology, it's outdated within a year, but we found 5 years to be the key mark that we can stretch it out to and be financially responsible getting it replaced. So we have our teacher and staff computers listed there. We have our office computers for the secretaries up front, and then our technology department is located in the middle school, so we factor us into there too. Our art room also is due for an iPad replacement. The teacher that got these 5 years ago used to be in the elementary school, and she's been taking these iPads and just doing great things with them, teaching animation, drawing on them, and really doing some very nice projects. The iPads, after several years, they're no longer updatable, so we have to get them replaced. So this year, she had requested that we try to get those replaced for her. Over in our high school, we've been upgrading our freshmen Chromebooks each year. That way they can keep the same device through all 4 years. They do take the devices home, so they do get a little more wear and tear than normal. So this sets them up for a 4-year cycle with that device. We have a couple office computers in that building, as well as some iPad replacements for learning support rooms as well. The bottom right there, we have, I call this our district devices, where it may not be any building in particular, but just as a whole. We do have a file server that we need to get replaced this year that stores data internally. I do have down interactive TVs on here. We completed our interactive TV refresh last year, where we got rid of all the projectors in the classroom, switched them over to a nice, high-quality touch TV. We no longer have to worry about sun in the room, and they can't see the screen because the TVs are so bright. While we have that done, we're getting to the point where we're 6 years in with our initial batch that we need to have some spares on hand, just in case. So I do have down an amount there to get some replacement ones that have on hand. Below that, I listed our UPS replacements and our switch upgrade costs, and then I also put in a generic number on the bottom just to purchase any security cameras that we may need throughout the district to add any additionals or replace any broken ones. So if you look at the very bottom there, our total for capital projects this year is $251,272. And I believe that is it for my slideshow. Does anyone have any quick questions I can answer, or? Yeah.
When you have to replace like the teacher devices, because that 5-year mark where it starts to go, is there any program that like you can refurbish those for any, or do you like trade them in for parts or anything like that? They kind of do that with cell phones. I was just wondering if they do
So
that.
we have a company that collects e-waste. Some of it, if they determine there is a little bit of value to it, that they can pull, maybe like a camera out of it, or if the keyboard's in good shape, they often will give us a dollar amount for whatever's available. But generally after 5 years, these devices are pretty beat up. They've seen their days, they've done their time, and they're essentially updated beyond that.
The E-rate, is that a state, local thing?
That is a federal. Yeah, so that's through the FCC. So I don't know if there's been any determination yet, but we're really hoping it continues to come back year after year.
If you have a traditional landline, there's a fee called a USF fee, Universal Service Fund. That USF fee is what is collected for the E-rate program. And it is questionable whether that will make it or not. In the past administration, there's also an item that is possibly a right for a cut, and I imagine it's probably right for a cut in this administration too. So stay tuned. It's been very good. The Category 2 funding, which has been very beneficial to the district, where we do this network switches and the cabling, it's refreshed every 5 years, and we've really been able to be very financially efficient on that because of the E-rate funding.
To put it in, for example, last year we refreshed all of our wireless throughout the district. What would have cost potentially $180,000, our share was maybe 30 of that. So it is a great program to save money on those, those hardware costs.
What's the plan if we lose that funding? Is that gonna be shouldered by the taxpayers, or what are we gonna do there?
Try to not think about that right now. Just hope for the best.
How much is coming in on the E-funding right now?
The E-rate funding gives a dollar amount of,
I don't recall specifically, but I know it's a number, it's based off your enrollment, and, I can't remember the number, but I wanna say we're about 200,000.
was it like 100? It had to be more.
Somewhere in that range. It's about a $200,000 item over 5 years. But I think we're in a decent spot. I mean, our connections from our switches to the classrooms back to the main hub, all that cabling is fiber optic with limited by our lasers probably.
Right now, we're limited by 10 gigabits of data transfer between buildings.
So internal.
1 gig each classroom area. We're gonna be, this upgrade will get us at 25 see a significant, bandwidth increase with this
So,
upgrade.
if this gets cut, that would then be shouldered onto the taxpayer. And we would have to figure out where that money's gonna come from.
Not in 25, 26. This is long-term, like the fiber optic connections we have. The switches, this is a 9-year life item, 10-year life item. So, our impact on an annual operating basis is really on the internet services, because part of it is not category 2.0, but what we pay for our internet access. And, I think that invoice is about $600 a month. But that's, we're paying a fraction of that because of our internet funding. So we'll be paying more for internet access on an operational basis. But in category 2.0 funding, we're gonna be okay for, multiple years. Within the category, 2 funding, E-rate funding, this category, you have a 5-year window to spend it. So we didn't, spend in the first year or second year when it first came out. We were in year 3, 4, or 5. So we're actually probably 2 years out before we have to refresh again. What was the life on our access points we put in last year? Are they 8 years?
Well, I would say the ones we had before that were here for probably 10 years, and it was beyond time to upgrade for that. With the new ones we have here, I would anticipate at least 8 years with those.
So I'd say it's a concern, but it's not an immediate 2 to 3 year concern, because we are refreshed with, I mean, that's the bulk of it. And the fiber, the glass is fine, it's the lasers you put on either end, and then the switches on that to receive. That's your choke point that you have to upgrade.
So the 5 out of 5 years, that is going to be spending the remainder.
We're gonna try and spend what we can with it, just to utilize what's remaining.
So if we have it now, and you're gonna spend what we have left, and it doesn't get refunded, we got this, but.
It's a use it or lose it after the 5th year, so
Yeah,
whatever.
I got that.
You'll find that a lot of schools are gonna be left with 20,000 or less in the end, whereas maybe they started out with $500,000 in the beginning. Some of these projects, a wireless upgrade project could cost the district $250,000, which would leave them with half of that money left. So then the next year, they can do a different kind of network item to refresh, which would be only 50,000 left. At that point, you're looking at little things that you can do with it. You can't do everything, it has to be related to your network, which could be anything from like a rack to put servers in or anything like that. UPS is a lot of smaller items. So when you get down to that lower amount where you just have a little bit left to work with, you kind of get limited on what you can spend it on. But once you get your bigger projects out of the way, your wireless, your switching and all that, that's when you get the most benefit from it.
Your microphone died, by the way.
Yeah, I don't think any of you have them on.
I remember hitting it when it came over.
You're pretty soft-spoken.
I have a cold right now, so. Does anyone else have any other questions I can answer?
Appreciate that.
Very well.
Thanks, Scott.
So, next up is Mr. Emick and myself, and we are going to, discuss, cyber charter schools, outreach, and then just some information sharing. We are going to do this in 2 parts. Our first part is going to be Northeast Virtual Academy, K-12 communication, home visit, and just a few anecdotal notes. This is something that Mr. Emick was tasked with. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn this part over to him, and then again, we'll tag team on a couple slides.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hartzell. Again, just for the room this evening, we are embarking on a 2-part series as it relates to the topic of cyber charter education. And tonight, our focus will be mainly on programming and communication on the part of our school district. As it relates to cyber charter education, our next part will delve more into some data and some numbers and some other additional information to share. So stay tuned for all of that. With that said, we want to start with sharing for everybody that we have our own Northeast Virtual Academy. We have the ability to provide a virtual learning experience for students who crave that type of learning environment outside of potentially being a student within our brick and mortar schools, okay? To note, we've had the ability to provide virtual learning for a number of years, okay? But certainly with the uptake of what happened with COVID and the sizable increase of students leaving for Cyber Charter Academy, we have focused over the last several years in particular to invest a lot of hard work and collaborative efforts to enhance the programming that we are able to offer. And before I go any further, if I don't highlight anything else for anybody in the room this evening, please know that this slide is probably the most important one to talk about this evening, because we can provide a virtual experience, again, for students who crave that type of learning environment. We've worked hard to partner with a couple of different school entities. You can see them listed there: the Capital Area Online Learning Association, as well as Virtual Academy Services. And we felt very important to have multiple partnerships so that we can provide a variety of ways for students to learn in a virtual environment, should they so desire. We can provide both synchronous and asynchronous learning opportunities for children. Synchronous meaning they can receive daily instruction from teachers in their core content areas, while they also work through specials and elective offerings. Asynchronous is more of the module-based type of learning that a lot of children will receive when they go to outside cyber charter schools. Now, they've certainly worked to enhance their programming as well, particularly over the last several years. But we feel strongly about our partnerships that we currently have, where we can offer students the opportunity to learn either synchronously or asynchronously. This is very customized and personalized learning experiences for children. The biggest thing that students have if they go to the Northeast Virtual Academy is that they remain Northeast School District students. We can continue to provide student support services, counseling services, mental health services should they need it. We can connect with supports throughout our schools for our children. There are instances where they can continue to potentially pursue opportunities within our buildings still, because they are a Northeast School District student. At the end of the road, they can still receive a Northeast School District diploma. There's a wide range, a wealth of courses and offerings that they can pursue, as you can see up there. There's a lot to be had for participating in our Northeast Virtual Academy. And that's the most important piece to know this evening. The vast majority of the children that live in this community that attend our schools want to be in our schools. They want to be in our brick and mortar schools. They want to be with our teachers and our staff. They want to see their administrators every day, and they want to learn that way. But there is a smaller subset of students who either themselves or their families feel that this is a route that they want to pursue, and we can provide that opportunity to them. And as you watch these next couple of slides, you'll see how we can do that as it compares to outside cyber charter schools. So if we could flip to the next slide, Dr. Hartzell. Oftentimes students don't necessarily go to cyber school for the length of the school year, the entirety of the school year. It's more rare that you see a child attend cyber school from day one to day 180. Now, it certainly happens, and there are students that do that, but there's also a lot of transiency that occurs over the course of the school year. We have students that go into cyber and then come back out. They may start in our school and go to cyber. They may start in cyber and come back to our schools. There's a lot of that transiency. However, this slide just highlights that should a child attend for a full year in the Northeast Virtual Academy, if we set them up with our partnership through Keola, it's going to cost about $3,300 for a child to attend the Keola portion of our Northeast Virtual Academy for a full year. If a child attends our Virtual Academy services for an entire school year, that comes at a cost of about $3,200 for a full year seat. Please note on this slide that regardless of whether you're a regular education or a special education student, the price remains the same, okay? So we can very fiscally pay for students that want to pursue this type of learning environment by them attending our Northeast Virtual Academy. If you go to the next slide, Dr. Hartzell, you'll see a stark difference in those numbers. Children that leave the school district altogether and pursue an outside cyber charter school, and this is all formulated by our numbers here in the school district. You can see that a child who does this pathway, it's going to cost our school district just under $13,000 if they're a regular education child, a student, excuse me, and it's going to cost just under $25,000 for a special education student to pursue and go to an outside cyber charter school. Now, again, those numbers are reflective of a student that would go to one of those outside cyber charter schools and attend for a full school year, okay? That is a sizable difference. That is a costly difference. There's a stark contrast between a child in our school district attending our virtual academy as opposed to a child attending an outside cyber charter school. So we just want to make sure we highlight that.
Question.
Yes, Mr. Fruit.
Or do you want me to wait to the end? Would be better.
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so just my question is, if a student is outside enrolled, let's say it's a regular ed student, and they don't want to be a part of that cyber anymore, come back and then go back, whatever, like you were talking about this movement, do we have to pay this one time or multiple times?
We do not have to pay that as a upfront cost for a child that goes. We get billed an invoice on a monthly basis. So there's a level of opportunity for us to avoid some of these costs if a student does not attend the entire school year. So yes, we're billed an invoice on a monthly basis. You'll see that on a slide here just in a few moments.
And I do want to point out that cyber tuition costs to outside and our own are 100% taxpayer dollars, 100%. Just want to make that clear. I do want to tell Johnny's story at this point.
Absolutely.
So I want to share a story right here. So sometimes we run into some issues, so it goes back to your question, Mr. Fruja, that so we had a student who was supposed to graduate. They were enrolled in outside cyber charter. They were a regular ed, so at the $12,000 rate. They were supposed to graduate in 2023. Did not meet the graduation requirements. Re-enrolled 23-24. Still did not meet the graduation requirements, and are currently enrolled again this school year in 24-25. So we pay, as taxpayers, are responsible for paying 2 additional years so this student can graduate. And so that, and it'll go back, and I'll piggyback on that with a meeting that we had with Mr. Bancha, a group of us, with that, and that is a concern that we shared with them, that some type of regulation, on, cyber charter schools.
Thank you, Dr. Hartzell. So we want to just dive for a few moments into the level of communication and outreach that the school district has really started to hone in and focus on over the last couple of years in particular, and it starts at the school building level, okay? Please understand that our teachers, our counselors, and our administrators build connections with parents, build connections with students first and foremost in the buildings, and then with parents, and they have their finger on the pulse most of the time on what a child is going through in terms of their journey of learning, and if they're having thoughts about wanting to pursue this type of environment. Our teachers do a great job between emails and app messaging with their parents and communicating in those types of formats. Our school counselors have meetings with parents and students all the time and provide different supports and services. From their vantage point, our administrators are constantly on the phones with emails, meeting parents in person, making home visits, and we'll talk a little bit more about home visits in just a moment. There's a lot that happens at the building level with all of these groups of staff members and team members, so that if we do have a child who is interested in pursuing this type of learning format, we can work with them to help them explore and investigate the Northeast Virtual Academy, okay? Which, as you've already seen, is a way for us to help children still learn at a very fiscally sound rate. The issue comes when we don't know that a child is leaving for cyber charter school until a fax comes across the fax machine in the district administration office, And that fax, if it's coming from an outside cyber charter school requesting records, that's a $13,000 to $25,000 fax. That's what it is. And in some instances, that happens, and we don't know that, and no one has shared that information with us. No one's informed anyone at the building level, their teachers, their counselor, their principal, and we don't know anything until that fax comes across the machine. And many times in that instance, it's too late for us to even have an opportunity to talk about the Northeast Virtual Academy. And that's where some of the frustrations lie. I'm just gonna put it out there. It's very frustrating when that happens. If it does, here's how we try and pursue investigating that. So if we go to the next slide, Dr. Hartzell, let's move to the district level form of communication. We have spent a lot of time and we've really focused on trying to connect with parents and families to try and determine what's happening and why the decision is being made to look to go elsewhere, particularly in the cyber charter world. So we reach out to families. We make phone calls, we send emails, we send handwritten letters, we send surveys to families to try and gain feedback and insight as to why they may have made that decision. We go to homes and we try and talk to students and parents. And that the term home visits up there, you'll notice, is highlighted in maroon. We'll talk about that on an upcoming slide. We've done all that. And if I'm being honest, we've been stonewalled at a lot of terms. We're not getting a lot of support. We're not getting a lot of connection. We have an opportunity to really work with children to provide a good virtual learning experience within our own school district, but we're getting stonewalled at a lot of turns, and it's very frustrating, and it's costing us a lot of money. Dr. Hartzell, could you slide up just real quick? I have a couple hot links up there. We also put promotional materials out. I think those links work, Doc, if you want to click on those. Every summer for the last couple of years, we send out a flyer, an informational flyer, to all of our families who are currently enrolled in cyber charter at that time, and we try and make sure that they understand that we have a virtual academy that we can provide. Okay, that happens. That has happened for the last couple of years. At the end of the first quarter for the last couple of years, we send a letter out to all the cyber charter families, and we highlight and emphasize all the things that are happening in our school buildings across the district, K to 12. We send this out. We work collaboratively to do this and to highlight our strengths and our successes and accomplishments, and we push that out to all families who have children in cyber charter schools. Those are some other forms of communication from the district level that we pursue after everything that's happened at the school building level in terms of students who may still be enrolled in a cyber charter program. All that being said, on the next slide, I will share that since the close of last school year, when we started to survey families and reach out to families to try and gain insight, we've pushed out 22 surveys and we've received 4 total responses. And that's with written letters, phone calls, and emails, all being attempted to try and connect with these families. 22 surveys, 4 responses. So I'll share, we have a lot more in terms of numbers and data on part 2 of this 2-part series, but I do want to share that slide with everybody so that everyone has an awareness that we are working to make inroads and try and figure out what's going on with decision making, but it's quite difficult, and we're seeing a lot of challenge with that. With that, Doc, if we could go to the next slide. We do want to talk about home visits just very briefly. I want everyone to understand, we want everyone to understand that we're out in the homes a lot. Our principals, Dr. Rennie, you've done, I don't know,
a lot.
Can I say hundreds? I can easily say dozens, hundreds of home visits over the course of your administrative career. Mrs. Hathaway, Mrs. Bailey, you're in the homes, our middle school administrators are in the homes, I'm in the homes. We're all in the homes, okay? We go to homes a lot, and we, not just for this topic, we go to homes and make sure students are in school. That's part of our attendance enforcement. We try and make connections, and part of that process is being in homes and trying to meet people and speak with them. Understand, when students relocate to our school district, if they were on a cyber charter program prior to coming to our community, they likely will remain on a cyber charter program, and all they have to do is prove residency, show an address in this community, and we now have to foot that bill. And I will share with you that we have a lot of examples of students who maybe left mom's house in Mill Creek and came to live with dad in Northeast, or vice versa. Or we sometimes have families that move into our community, and if they were previously in a cyber charter program, they're likely gonna stay in that. We go to those homes, we go to them, and we talk to them about our own Northeast Virtual Academy, but not just that, we talk to them about our brick and mortar schools. And we try and engage in that level of conversation to really get them to know who we are as people and know what we are all about in terms of our school community. We do that anytime we have a relocation into our district. We go out to the homes to check on residency, make sure that students who are in cyber charter programs that we are paying for, we want to know that they're living there. At the very least, we want to make sure we know that they're living there. So we do that. We go to homes to try and do that. We go to homes to try and just check in on progress and see how students are doing, particularly at the high school level, because as we all know, if you want to earn a high school diploma, you have to earn your credits, and we don't want our students falling behind in terms of trying to earn those credits. So we try and get out into homes and monitor progress of students and talk to them about whether it's time to consider either coming back into our schools or at the very least returning into our Northeast Virtual Academy. I will tell you that we've also attempted to reach out and connect with several of the cyber charter schools. There are two that where most of our students attend, and we get stonewalled by them. They don't want to share records, they don't want to communicate or partner with us. They don't want to let us know how students are doing until the child decides that they would just want to leave that school and return to us, or just drop out entirely. So it's been very frustrating that we don't get a lot of connection with the cyber charter schools. But we're out in the community trying to make sure that students that are experiencing an environment of virtual learning are doing the best that they can to keep up with that. So we're going to close out with just a couple of quick little slides here to kind of close out part one. These are just some anecdotal notes because we're not getting a lot of feedback in terms of our survey efforts with parents and families. We've reached out to the principals, we've tasked the principals at the building level to record some just very informal anecdotal notes on conversations that they have as they go down the path of children leaving the schools to go to cyber. And here's several, and I'll just read them. I'm not interested in completing my portfolio this year, so I'm going to go to cyber school. We've had that set. A portfolio project your senior year, which is part of our graduation requirements. I'm not interested in doing that, so I'm going to go to cyber. I don't feel like getting up early in the morning anymore, so I'm just going to go enroll in cyber school. Here's a nice one. It will be easier for them. So we don't have to have in truancy court again. We're going to enroll her in cyber school, and that's not a one-time statement. We hear that a lot. Our administrators are working to enforce the compulsory attendance laws. We're trying to make sure our students are in school so that they can learn. And if we push too hard and they end up in truancy court, parents oftentimes respond by saying, we're going to go to cyber school. You want to talk about frustration? That is frustration. My son's not feeling well, so we're going to go online until we can figure out what's wrong. We have medical staff in our buildings, and we connect with healthcare folks. We have a medical partnership where we have medication able to be handled in our school buildings. We can handle medical situations, not all of them, but we can make sure that children are supported and that their health is paramount to their learning. But we've had people that have left to go to cyber school for that reason. I can't stop them from getting into trouble, so we're going to just go ahead and give cyber a try. Student conduct enforcement in our schools. We're trying to make sure that our schools are safe and supportive for our students. And when you enforce conduct too much, parents respond by just going off to cyber school. And then I'm just going to share, this is a family who moved into our community 2 years ago from out of state. Their children never attended our schools. We never even had an opportunity to try and educate them. And their 3 children are costing the school district about $50,000 a year right now for the 3 kids to go to outside cyber charter school and not attend even our own virtual academy. And that when I try and connect with the family, the response I get is, please remove me from your email, phone call, and mailing list regarding the survey, and don't contact me again. So that's just some insight on some of the things that we experience as we try and build connections and outreach into our community, as it relates to Cyber Charter. Last slide, just for part one of our two-part series. Just as a, again, a kind of a number slide, and we'll dive again into more numbers during part two, but to Mr. Frugia's question, I think earlier, again, we don't just pay like a one-time upfront payment in September for kids who want to go to cyber. We don't just get a bill at the end of the school year either. We are invoiced on a monthly basis. So just as a perspective on some of the numbers that we somewhat consistently see, I just took a snapshot of 3 different months over the last 3 years, 3 calendar years. So in October of 23, March of 24, February of 25, the 2 cyber charter schools where the majority of our resident community students attend would be Commonwealth Charter Academy and PA Cyber, and those are the bills that we paid to those schools in each of those 3 months over the last several calendar years. That's not cheap. Those aren't small dollars. Those are big numbers. But that just gives you a little bit of an idea and a perspective on what it costs when our students leave our brick and mortar schools, don't pursue our virtual academy because they want to go to an outside cyber charter. So with that, we'll stop there, and I'll turn it over to Dr. Hartzell. That will close out my part of part one. And again, please stay tuned. We'll have a lot more information to share during part 2 of our series, which will be next month. Dr. Hartzell?
Just in closing, and again, we will reiterate this in part 2, which I believe will be our next meeting. But I know the question is how many students and outside. We have 72 enrolled, and we anticipate that'll cost for the 24-25 school year, $941,857. Okay.
That last slide is a good visual. That's 1 teacher per month for those 2 schools. That's a full-time teacher salary benefits approximate cost. So multiply by 12, that's 12 full-time equivalents.
So stay tuned for part 2. Oh, questions?
That's taxpayer money, right?
Correct.
Yes.
100%.
So that's 100% taxpayer money.
Yes.
And just to put this into perspective, I mean, this could be very inappropriate to say, but they came after, like, we just had a discussion over us spending $20,000 on an arch. We had a conversation about that and how, hey, we need to cut that. Meanwhile, there are people who like to go out and figure out, like, well, where's all the tax money going? Here it is. Here it is. This is where the tax money is going. And if you want to get really angry about it, you want to know what they're spending that on? They're spending it on real estate. Real estate that is not being used to educate our kids.
Part 2.
Now, I've been down this rabbit hole so many times. This is something that really, really just gets me, is that they're spending this money. They're not paying brick and mortar. They're not providing extracurricular activities. They're not paying an electric bill. They're not buying books. They're providing a laptop. And I don't know if they pay the internet bill for the families, which they should, because that's their child's education. Yeah, and yet school boards get raked over the coals for every single penny that we spend, but yet the cyber charter schools can take, $88,000, spend it however they want, and no one questions it. If you ever want to get mad, go see what they're spending it on. It's a great read. Sorry. Makes me mad.
Stay tuned for part 2.
Anybody else? Great job.
Thank you, Dr. Hartzell.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Emmett. He was tasked a lot with our cyber programs this year, so he's done an outstanding job, so thank you.
Absolutely, appreciate it. A lot of information there. Great job. All right, moving on, superintendent's report, Dr. Hartzell.
I'm sorry, I think my mouse is dying, so I apologize. And it's not a touch screen. Right. Mr. Emick and I are also going to just talk about the hybrid learning survey. I was going to give you hand that one. weather. And so we just wanted to get some feedback from a few of our families. So we just did a brief survey, so I'm gonna have Mr. Emick just go over the type of learning modules that we did, and then I will go over the survey results.
Good, okay. Making sure my microphone's turned on. Thank you, Dr. Hartzell. So during our hybrid learning days, of which we did experience 2 consecutive days recently, we put together a plan where our students in grades 6 through 12, our secondary level students, were able to, by way of their Chromebooks, log in and complete learning activities as assigned by their teachers, and then also access their teachers through pre-made office hours, and they were able to do that through Google Meets, which is a platform that we've become very accustomed to using over the last several years, dating back to when we were in the throes of the pandemic and all the virtual learning that experienced at that time. At the K through 5 grade levels, we focus more on packet learning, and you know, with weather reporting being pretty solid for the most part in this day and age, we're able to kind of see that, predict that, and make sure that our children are prepared in the event that we may experience some sort of weather related emergency. And so our students had those paper pencil packets, and they were able to work on those. And we also communicated with our families that all of our K-5 teachers would be available by way of email and or app messaging, which I mentioned earlier. A bulk of our elementary school teachers use apps such as Class Dojo and Remind to communicate with families. And so they were readily available by way of one of those forms of communication to help provide support for children in that regard. We also had our low incidence special education classrooms. Students in our autistic support and life skills support classrooms have a curriculum through TeachTown that they're able to continue to work on even when they're in a situation where they may be at home. And again, teachers were available to parents as warranted throughout the school day to provide support as needed. And then also, as our teachers were working remotely through this hybrid learning format, our building principals were very keen to ensure that they were making sure our teachers were working during their office hours or outside of their office hours within the construct of the school day, both at the secondary level and in the elementary level, by way of additional work in our curriculum platform, Atlas, which you'll also hear a little bit about tonight. So that was our overall plan in terms of how we implemented instruction, both at the elementary level and the secondary level on those 2 hybrid learning days. And then the next several slides, I believe, will share a number of questions that we included within the survey. And we had, I believe, Dr. Hartzell, 219 responses, I think, at last check.
That's correct, and I apologize, I'll speak loud because my mic did die. So, yes, 219 responses. And before I start on the results, I just want to say thank you to the building administrators. They really worked hard to ensure we had a plan and schedules in place, as well as our teachers, because it is difficult to pivot, on the fly during some of these days. So I really appreciate that. The first slide is just basically what school their child attended. We had a pretty good results with each one of our buildings, so pretty evenly distributed. A little bit more obviously in elementary, but we had quite a few. Pretty even with the high school, as well. During the recent hybrid days, my child was able to fully access the classroom assignments and learning materials. We had 209 responding yes and 13 responding no. And so what's nice about our surveys, we can go in and we'll be able to track and hopefully follow up with some of these families. Grades 6 through 12, my child's teacher was available and able to communicate during regularly scheduled Google Meet office hours. We had yes, no, and not applicable. We had 103 NA, 2 no, and 114 yes. So that's pretty significant responses there. High percentage rate with the responses there. K-5, my child's teacher was available and able to communicate during the regularly scheduled times. 63% not applicable, 35% did say yes, so that was 78 responses there in that area. We did have one returned no. Okay, so there is a 1% there, you can't really see it, but we did have one response that was a no. My child did complete the required Google Classroom assignments, this is grades 6 through 12, or the paper packet assignments. So that was a very high response rate of 98%, that completed. Then this one, do you want to take this one, Mr. Emmett?
When my child emailed the teacher directly, a follow-up reply was received during the school day, and this was a question asked across the K-12 school district. And again, we did have a number of respondees submit a not applicable, and we're assuming that they just didn't need to reach out to the teacher. They were able to work through their assignments accordingly. But we did have a high percentage of yes responses as compared to just a couple of no responses there. And again, we're able to work through and sort through where those no responses are coming from, and then follow up accordingly within our team across the district.
And that was 4 no responses on that one, that didn't receive a response. Okay.
And then our last question was really, we just wanted to kind of gauge the internet and connectivity issues and where our families are at. This was obviously, this came right to the forefront several years back. We haven't necessarily revisited this idea as much as we did 4 years ago, so we wanted to kind of get an idea of where we're at in terms of technology and internet connectivity issues. And so you can see the question there, and we had quite a large response of families who said that they are not currently having any issues with internet or connectivity. Certainly there is a little bit of a blue slice of pie there where families have expressed that they are still experiencing some difficulties with that. And again, we have that information and data that we can sort through and work through a follow-up action plan where needed to ensure that we're providing the very best supports to all families across the district.
And that was 15 families there that responded, they had connectivity issues and concerns. Then we just captured just a few comments that kind of encapsulated everything everybody said. One family said, I'm thankful the district is able to provide these hybrid days so the students don't have to make up days throughout the year, or I've added on at the end of the year. Several comments on barrier to internet. You just heard Mr. Emick mention that on our last slide. So we definitely want to make sure we're addressing that, especially, if this is going to be an option that we want to continue in the future. And one parent, obviously the elementary level, said the packet worked much easier for the children in K-5. So just a little survey there. I thought we had a pretty good response rate. For that, it did go out and through a Sapphire all call to ask parents to complete the survey online. Okay.
So you guys are happy with the 219 responses when there's over 600 kids in this building alone? Last time I checked, that looks a little low.
We have 1,100 families, so that's probably about a little under 20% response rate. So, for a survey, of course, we would have liked more families to participate, but I think that's a pretty good number.
I can submit my response now if you want.
I turned it off.
Wait a minute. It's people like Mac that drive these down.
So.
Just on the several comments on barriers for internet, is there any way that we can partner with the local library to provide hotspots for families that may be in need?
To answer that, we actually, we do here, when we went through cyber, we do have some hotspots actually on our campus as well, but it's something, to consider. But yes, the library does, and I believe we do have a few. So if somebody really is in need, we can provide, but it's very on a limited basis.
It seems a direct correlation, like you were saying, Katie, like the 5% that couldn't complete the work compared to the 15 families, that's an internet issue, so it seems very correlated on that. Anybody else?
That was that part of my report, so I'll just continue continue. So Mr. Wargo, Ms. Brody, Mr. Fox, Mr. Emick, and myself, we had the opportunity to meet with Representative Jake Vanna to discuss several items. Topics included cyber charter, basic education and special education funding, plan con, safety and mental health grants, and mandates. And it was a great conversation on how these topics impact public education and specifically to our local community. Several students participated in the Regional Science Consortium 4 Seasons of STEM winter event. Mrs. Benson's students learned how to archaeological shipwreck divers collect data to document and preserve historical data of shipwrecks in Lake Erie. They also were exposed to scuba and snorkeling techniques used in scientific diving with Divers World Instructors at the Haggerty Family Events Aquatic Center. Congratulations to our students, Bryson Berkowitz, Iris Boswick, Audrey Kunzler, Morgan Lash, Morgan Larson, Carla Merritt, and Liam Sackerwaite. They participated in the PMA Senior District course on February 5th through 7th at Allegheny University. Mr. Hyde indicated students worked on advanced choral literature and provided a wonderful concert. In addition, 3 students, Iris Boswick, Morgan Larson, and Carla Merritt, qualified based on their auditions to participate at Region 2 course coming up in March 22nd, right, 20th through the 22nd. Mr. Hyde is still here. Congratulations, Mr. Hyde. Also, congratulations to our students who represented the Northeast High School PMEA District 2 Jazz Festival, February 13th and 14th. 6 students traveled to Corey High School to participate in the PMA District 2 Jazz Festival. Mr. Dabrowski indicated by audition, the students were assigned to one of 4 jazz bands, each directed by a guest director. Ryan Gifford played tenor sax 1, and Matt Murphy played guitar in band 4, directed by Mr. Jerry Blass. Jacob Evans played trumpet 3 in band 3, directed by Mrs. Connie Summers. Noah Northway played guitar, and Quentin Clark played bass in band 2, directed by Dr. Joseph Pisano. Audrey Kunzler played tenor sax 2 in band 1, directed by Dr. Kenny Crane. Congratulations to all of our Northeast students and staff.
All right, thank you. Moving on, we'll go to board reports and Northeast Recreation Commission. Mac, Chuck.
Alright, so this is the longest rec report you'll ever get. On January 23rd, the regular rec commission met to vote on the dissolution of that rec commission. It passed with plans to merge with the Little Picker organization, which has several other sports that the rec is also going to work together with. It's a better offer, make it more accessible to the community, make those programs more accessible to the community. So working together, joining forces, if you will. So that passed on the 23rd. On the 5th, the old rec and the Little Picker organization met for restructuring of that board. We have 12 members. Everything passed with flying colors. Funding from the old rec commission is still being determined, as it was having to be split 3 ways. The rec funds were technically donated money from the township, the borough, and the school district. So we're waiting to hear what that is going to be, what's going to be done with that. Other than that, I think our first program is going to be starting March 17th. It's going to be basketball here. The affiliation with the school is the same. I'm the secretary on the Little Pickers organization, good or bad. But it's all about sports and the kids having fun. So that's what you're going to see on the agenda today, is the dissolution for us. And then how those funds will or can be distributed that are coming, Jim, from the district or from the rec commission fund, from the borough, back to the school. If there's any questions, you guys all, I'm sure, know how to get a hold of me by now, and I'm more than happy to talk about it. That's it.
Perfect. Any questions for Mac? No. A lot of hard work there, Mac, and I know it's not an easy situation to go, but I think it's going to be good. As long All right, moving on, Northwest Tri-County Intermediate Unit, Dr. Bleisman.
Although our meeting is not until next Wednesday, I did go to a review of the budget book, which is about a 4-inch binder, to solidify it down into a little sentence. The school districts will not be getting an increase in their assessment to the IU. And I do have an executive review printed out. Mr. Fox has it if you would like to look at it sometime. And if you wanna look at the board book, we'll probably have it next week. We are going to be voting on it so that it can be brought to this board. We'll be voting on that next Wednesday, and it will be brought to this board to vote. Each school district votes on the budget, for the IU. Thank you.
Any questions for Dr. Bleisman? All right, Erie County Technical School. Mr. Fuller.
No report, meeting next Thursday.
All right.
Lunch next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, that's right. School Health Council, Mrs. Phillips.
No report.
No report. All right, moving on, we will go to public participation. Again, this is for agenda items only. If you're online, it's *6 to unmute. Aaron, yes. Usual name and just agenda item, please.
Okay, Aaron Beckes-Reese. This is regarding a couple of things. Number one is, under the minutes, I'd like to point out that it was more than just a discussion on the Archway last meeting that, and to point out, it wasn't, it was actually you, Katie, who had the problem with spending the $20,000 on the arch. And there was a couple other people that mentioned, just it not being a priority right now. And the thing that I think needs to be mentioned in here is you point blank asked, has the materials been purchased? And the answer was no, but that was a lie. So the board was lied to. I'm talking. And really, I am just really tired of the lying, the shadiness,
Is this still related to the
no
minutes?
communication, not following the board policies.
Related to the minutes?
We try to come in here and work with you and give you,
Ma'am, if this is not related to the
I'm not
minutes, it's time to
discussing,
move on.
I'm not discussing, I'm addressing the board, Mr. Senate.
And
The
I'm
other thing is
suggesting to
under
you,
business.
Ms. Reeds, I
Under
am
business.
saying to you,
Let's
this
take
is
a
not
quick recess,
related to the
please.
minutes.
We're gonna take a
We need to
recess.
move on.
We're gonna take a recess.
I'm trying,
5-minute
if you would
recess.
let me.
We're gonna take
Please
a
go back
5-minute
to the
recess.
I am, on the agenda.
What-
This is agenda items only, Mr. Senate.
We got a recess right now. We're gonna take a 5-minute recess. Okay. If the public could step out for a little bit, we're just gonna take a little break.
Is her camera off?
No, sir, you have to leave.
Then that camera has to go too, 'cause we're in a recess.
Yeah, camera has to go too.
The camera has to go too.
Well, we did announce for an executive.
We're not going to an executive, we're just having a recess. We're just taking a little break.
Does that mean the camera stays in and records everything?
We're not having any discussion, we're just taking a recess, there's no discussion.
I need a breather in.
want everybody to get settled in. Just so you know, we just asked for a recess. There was no executive meeting, nothing, no discussion. We just wanted a little break. Mr. Reese, I understand if we could just keep it to agenda, and then if anything else, bring it up at the end when it's for any participation, just.
I believe it was a point of order because you didn't ask Mr. Senate to speak, and he is the consultant.
I know, but we got a little off just being agenda. Let's just talk about the agenda and like your concerns with the minutes, whatnot, and any other stuff.
To follow the rules,
Right.
you know?
It was not agenda items, we just go.
It was actually, it was.
Well, no, the minutes were.
Yeah.
But the other stuff, we can
This
save for
one
later.
is under business, and it's to authorize the business manager to solicit bids or quotes where appropriate. Are we giving him the okay to make decisions without a board vote?
Which one you want?
Which number is that?
number you want?
7.
Business seven.
Business 7?
Yeah.
Alright, thank you.
And then finally, under the cyber thing earlier, I think you guys are missing the whole point. You have to ask yourself why this is happening, and I can tell you from speaking to several people that have pulled their kids, some of the reasons are Dr. Hartzell has been brought up, but there is countless people that want to get away from the SEL, the CRT, and the DEI. You've caused a lot with not communicating with people, so there's been a lot of hard feelings, and this is coming from people, you know, that they are done with you. You know, by the time it's time that you wanna get information and feedback, they're done with you. But, that's a little, you know, food for thought, is looking in the mirror and not just looking at the community. So, like, get off your soapbox, Katie. Thank you.
Alright, that was unnecessary. Alright, Eric? We have Eric.
Can you unmute star 6, Mr. Weedle?
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, Eric Riddle, 15295 Mount Road. What I wanted to talk about was the rec commission. This is for Mac. So the funding for the rec commission, how you said it was gonna possibly be split up 3 ways because the 3 entities had donated that money. That's not actually the case. The summer rec usually costs around $33,000 to $35,000 run. And each the township and borough would donate $10,000. The school district would pick up a third, and then the money saved or that was charged for the students to attend covered the remaining. Most of that money that was in the account was from the actual activities that went on, like the basketball, the soccer, and all that. So at the last meeting I was at, it was whenever the rec commission was going to disband. We voted on it that if it did in fact disband, that money was going to be donated to the community foundation, I believe, to do something for the kids. Now, if you're reorganizing and making it into a new commission, I guess, all that money should go towards or to that commission to continue funding the activities for the kids, because it wasn't donated any donations from the 3 entities. That money was actually all used up for rec commission or for the summer rec program. So I just wanted to let you know that. I don't know if Leanne's still on that board or not.
She's not.
Okay, so I mean, she can verify that too. I believe Jim was there at that meeting and voted that also.
Can I clear it up?
Yeah.
Eric, can you hear me?
Yes.
So, we were advised by the council from the township and the borough and Mr. Fox that the funds had to be distributed back to the taxpayers as they were held in a taxpayer account. So, we, as the rec commission, could not just decide where the funds were going, even though they most certainly were from activities. Since the rec commission, as you know, was really not able to hold funds, that's why the borough did that for us. So we're just kind of having to split it back up and re-ask or re-solicit the three entities for that money back. And two of them, I believe, is that, you can just say yes or no?
Yeah, the borough and the township have already voted, everything is coming back to us. According to the contract, we have to pay our last invoice, which should be coming in, well, the Northeast Rec will pay the last invoice. That comes in on March 7th for the lifeguards. Once that invoice is paid, you guys will go to the bank, you will close out that account with 3 checks. One goes to the school, one goes to the township, one goes to the borough. And the borough and the township have already said they're gonna give it back to us. But it's a formality that has to take place because that's what's in the contract with the dissolving of the Northeast Rec.
Yeah, unfortunately, the meeting that you spoke about, that was appropriating the funds back to the rec commission to do what they wanted with was not brought up in that meeting. So I'm sorry, I can't do anything about that. And we were advised to do with the money what has to be done. So, you know, it's coming back to the kids. It's just, you know, we will be voting on that.
And I guess that's my main concern, is that it would make its way back to the kids, because, I mean, their activity is what put it there.
Yeah.
I know that's what, whenever the commission was initially being dissolved, we were gonna do something, I mean, there was a skate park talked about, stuff like that, but, okay. I just wanted to let you know, because I know, you know, I was on that commission for a while.
No, I appreciate it, Eric.
Appreciate it, Eric.
I was going to elaborate on that when we got into the discussion for the dissolution, because we'll have to have a discussion on that said thing, and we can go through the intergovernmental agreement and the dissolution of that, and what our legal requirements are to do that. It's not as easy as what we originally thought, where we could just donate to an entity for future benefit, and we'll get into that in more detail when we get to the discussion on that line.
Okay. Anybody else, anything? Yes.
Jen Kilgus. I too just wanted to comment on the minutes from the last meeting, that I do, I feel a little bit like Erin. I would really appreciate it, like Glenn made a very pointed comment, Katie made some very specific comments, and everything is just very vague. I asked a very specific question, and it's very vague, and I think the public is starting to see that, you know, what goes into the minutes is trying to just really diffuse things, and I understand that, we move on, but what needs to be, you know, in the minutes should reflect actually what was discussed in the meeting, not just, oh, we talked about an arch, and, you know, some people say, oh, it's a little molehill, well, not to some people, so please reflect in the minutes, what actually was said. I mean, some topics are just, you know, they're just conversation, but something like this, I think it needs to be reflective of some specifics. And then just one more question, the business number item 9, what fund does that money go into when you sell surplus items?
discuss that during the discussion of that.
Okay. And then actually, just one more thing about the cyber, is it okay if I say it now since it was a presentation?
It was on the agenda.
Okay, so I think also one of the things to consider, I know because I homeschool my daughter currently, but I'm hoping that, I know she would like to go to high school, but if you're wondering why people, I think it's something to consider, why have people pulled their kids to homeschool? That would be an interesting discussion, and I think a lot of it falls onto, not so much the curriculum, not the curriculum K through 5, but you definitely cannot monitor what goes on in the classrooms all the time in terms of curriculum. And I remember Mr. Suka, I hope I say his name right. Shuka? He brought that up like 2 years ago. He said, you know, you have all your curriculum mapping. He said, but how do we know what actually goes on? And it's just, you know, you can't police everything. But you do have teachers that are doing activities, doing assignments. There's things going on that definitely a lot of parents do not agree with. And when I brought that up a couple years ago with Dr. Hartzell, we were told that, yeah, you can remove your students from some of these things now, but by the next year, it's gonna be woven into curriculum. And you can believe that in certain classrooms, it has. And that's a big turnoff to families. So I think it's something that you need to consider going forward. If you want, say, homeschool students to return, that's something to consider. So, thank you.
Appreciate it. Anybody else? Alright, okay, appreciate everybody's time and minutes. Alright, moving on, we're gonna go to items for action in minutes. It is recommended the board approve the minutes of the regular meeting of February 6, 2025. Do I have a motion?
I have an issue first before we make the motion. Motion first? Okay.
Motion first.
Okay, I'll make that motion.
Motion Corey. Second by Kate. Go ahead, Glenn, discussion.
Okay, it's already been brought up. And I'm talking about the minutes, and there's gonna be another little part here, but it's all in the minutes, okay, so just let me finish. I was kind of wondering what the minutes would reflect, so I looked at, one of the first things I looked at was when we got the minutes on Friday. Katie's stuff was in there, my question was not. And when we got the final draft, this is what we got. And I'm gonna leave Jen out of it for now. Anyway, members of the board had questions regarding this item as well. At this time, this is just an idea in the consultation stages. I think I know better than that. And I can save the rest of it for later, and I will bring it up, but that is not true. There was a lot more involvement in it than just a consultation stage. And I brought proof. So it needs to be, her comments need to be put back in there, and my question about the rumor needs to be put back in there. We are supposed to be transparent. The public has a right to know, and it's funny to me that it's in there for the draft, but when we get the final one, none of it. And if I would've had the brains about me, I would've made a copy of it. So maybe somebody else saw that too and can confirm. If not, take it or leave it. That's what I saw. I'm done.
Anybody else got it? Katie?
So, I do think that there does need to be clarification about the conversation that really did happen. But I'm not sure the protocol behind what gets put into the minutes and what gets admitted from the minutes. Like, it was just a discussion, it wasn't up for a vote. So, by some metric, I could see that because we weren't voting on it, it didn't get as much attention as it should have. But I definitely feel like because it was brought up in committee, because we had a board discussion around it, because there were very pointed points that were made during that discussion, I would like to see a bulkier section on what happened just for transparency. But I just, again, I don't understand what the protocol is for that, so.
Just a idea as to what is required by law in regard to the minutes. All that's required by law is the action items. The action items taken. The information in regard to the action items as submitted. Minutes are not supposed to be a word for word recitation of everything that was said at a meeting. Public comment, all that's required to be in the minutes is the name of the individual and the topic. It's not a word for word recording of what public comment was. It's just the name of the person that made the public comment and their topic. Same thing with the minutes. The minutes are supposed to be a reflection of the action items taken by the board. A motion, a second, and what those action items are. That's what the minutes reflect. That's what the Sunshine Act requires. It doesn't require anything else. And so that's, and your minutes right now probably have more information in them than they should. But that's what the legal requirement is.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Okay. So, I realize this is just me saying this, but it was in there. I went back and looked at it, and it got revised, same time this got revised, it was changed. And our public needs to know what's going on in these meetings, they can't always attend. What is the harm in making sure that information is there? We seem to be having an issue getting these meetings recorded. I know it's on the agenda tonight to be talked about. But if these meetings had been recorded all along, it probably wouldn't be an issue. Because the public would have been able to go back and look, hear what was said, and make judgments on their own. But we don't have that.
Appreciate it. Anybody else? Alright, seeing none, can we just have a voice vote on the motion to accept the minutes as they are? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
No. Two noes?
No.
Three noes. Okay.
6-3.
6-3. Alright, that's approved. Appreciate everybody. Alright, moving on to business, Mr. Fox.
It is recommended that the board approve business items number 1 through 9 as listed.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Sorry, Nick? Alright, any discussion on any of those items 1 through 9 as listed?
Yes, item number 7, please.
Number 7.
I think it needs to be clarified that it's bids only, no authorization to purchase. Let's just make it plain and simple.
Right, yeah.
It
Yeah,
says
that's why it
that.
says to solicit bids. It says solicit bids in there. It's not purchase.
Yeah, it's not an authorization to purchase, it's just solicit bids.
Right, there says business manager to solicit bids.
Okay, if I have a moment here, I'll go through some of the items 1 through 9, for the board's information and for the public's information. Number 1 through 6, those are the board payables for the general fund, the capital project fund, and the food service fund. Also, the monthly financial reports for the capital projects report, the treasurer's report, and the food service report. I'm not gonna bore you with the details of the capital project report, this month, but I will go into the treasurer's report and highlight, there's not a lot of revenue and expenditure information to highlight, but, we do have, I just wanna state the fund balance. As of the month ending January 31st, 2025, $14,076,615.95 in the food service report, just wanted to highlight a little bit on the food service report. The impact of hybrid days is making it difficult to determine exactly how our change from to the community CEP for the K-5 building where it's free lunch. Not able to see if that is really hitting us financially or not, mainly because we've lost 6 days of serving, so we don't have federal funds for claim reimbursement, nor do we have paid funds coming in from the high school students and the middle school students who are not in that program. But the encouraging thing is, though, our average lunches per day, year to date, are 809 compared to last year, 766. So we don't have the financial part of it really, where we can nail that down, but we do know that we're serving on average 43 more lunches per day this year over last year, and also with declining enrollment, where our graduating seniors, that class leaving with 110 to 120, and incoming kindergarten class coming in at 85. So even with a declining enrollment with 30 to 40 less kids, we are serving 43 more meals per day. So that's a good thing. Breakfast, which is all free by the state this year, we are within one meal, 433 breakfasts to 432 last year. So that one is doing okay. Part of the reason it's hard to compare on the food service or whether we're tracking in the right direction or not, we did purchase the dishwasher last year, and we have if you notice in the purchase services, $151,000 compared to $14,000. That $130,000 is the equipment. So if you back that out, we're trending about an $80,000 revenue when you pull that expense out, compared to last year, $164,000. So we're off about 50% of where we were, but I can't give any positive conclusion at this point. Is it an impact of the CEP program, or is it an impact of loss of 6 days of service? So, but the metrics of we're serving more lunches per day, that's a good one.
That's good. Appreciate it, Jeff.
Now going into number 7, this is a very routine request. Part of the budget process, we do the capital project presentation following meeting. Then I ask permission to authorize me to solicit bids, to get quotes, because it is capital projects, it is a separate fund, it's not the general fund, but that the appropriation capability for me isn't there until I have authorization to actually go solicit bids and move forward with possibly procuring those items. The second part of that will be to bring those items back to the board for a subsequent vote to approve the purchase of those items when we actually have a vendor listed of who we know is going to purchase that, or who we're going to purchase from. Having a meeting with Mrs. Pyle today, we were reviewing some of the food service equipment that we're planning on purchasing for the coming year, utilizing the excess cash resources as required by our corrective action plan to spend down that money from the state, from our prior year financial report. We were talking about the middle school dish machine that I presented on last meeting, and also we brought up the cafeteria tables, and it prompted me to think, wait a second, that it might be more of a food service fund purchase as opposed, and upon review of the allowable expenditures for the food service fund, cafeteria tables are indeed an allowable expense, and it's on for capital projects. So I would recommend that I'm going to still go get quotes for that, like I'm going to do on the dish machine, but we can remove it from the capital projects. We probably need an amendment to remove that, but ultimately that's going to come out of the food service fund, not the capital projects fund, when we actually get to the approval process down the subsequent meetings for the actual purchase. I think I covered that on that one. B9, the question was on the disposal of surplus property. Any surplus funds is deposited back into the general fund, and is then available for the needs of the district. Annually, I do budget in a miscellaneous income line, that's where it goes, those proceeds. And we do budget and allow for some proceeds from surplus property. And if you recall, I had informed the board that the majority, we are listing on a website called Municipit, which is an online auction site. We did some Facebook posts to link to that, and upon the conclusion of that, we'll have those items that are available for ultimate disposal, and that's been a very neat process. The first time we used that website, and it's exciting to see the bids roll in, and we'll have some favorable results for the vehicles, the 3 vehicles that we have on there right now.
Appreciate it.
suggest that we separate, number 7, for the purpose of making an amendment to that, based on Mr. Fox's comments, and then, vote on everything else except for number 7, and then we'll go back to number 7, and then I'll suggest an amendment.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Sen.
So we have a motion and second on everything.
Yes.
So just vote on 1 through 6 and 8 and 9.
Yep. So, anybody else? Alright, as stated, business items 1 through 6, and also 8 and 9. Can I have the roll call vote, please, Mr. Fox?
Dr. Blackstone?
Yes.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Perugia?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Mr. Pavilion?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey?
Yes.
Mr. Wargo?
Yes.
9-0.
Okay. Alright, moving on to item number 7.
So may I suggest that, in the second line of the resolution as written, we change it from capital projects fund, except the cafeteria tables, which will be, part of the cafeteria fund.
And the dish machine, correct?
It's not listed there.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So who needs to amend that?
Somebody needs to make a motion.
So we have a motion? Okay. Second, Corey. Alright, any discussion on that?
On the amendment.
This is a vote on the amendment.
And the amendment is to remove number 4, correct?
No.
No.
It's to add that language.
That the language that it's gonna be except number 4, moving the cafeteria tables to the other fund.
To the
Thank
food
you.
service.
Food service fund, I'm sorry. Food service. So that will be the language on there. Alright, any discussion on that? No, see none, can I have the roll call on number 7 as amended?
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Oh, wait, yeah, I have to vote on the amendment, right?
Vote on the amendment first.
Yeah, vote on the amendment, I'm sorry. Good. Can I do a voice call on that? Voice?
Yeah.
All in favor for the amendment, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, alright. Moving on, have a motion to accept number 7 as amended. Do I have a motion?
Oh, the motion's already.
Oh, the motion's already up, yeah, that's right. Go ahead, we'll just have the roll call vote, sorry.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Perugia?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Mr. Pavilion?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey?
Yes.
Mr. Wargo?
Yes.
Dr. Blackstone?
Yes.
9-0.
Alright, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Confusion there, appreciate it. Thank you. Alright, moving on to personnel, Dr. Hartzell.
It is recommended that the board approve personnel items number 1 through 3 as listed.
Do I have a motion? Chuck? Second, Corey. Any discussion on any of those?
Yes.
Fine.
On item number 3,
Mm-hmm.
do we really need do we need an assistant athletic director?
Yes,
Yes,
we've always had.
we've always-
this is-
We've always had one?
Contract.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, alright, sorry.
That's okay.
It's okay.
Good question.
This is a great question. Anybody else, any questions?
Yeah, in regards to number 3 as well, I wish Eric the best. Athletics does a great job.
Yeah.
And, wishing Eric the best in that position.
Absolutely, Pat's done a phenomenal job. Absolutely, Eric, a lot, big shoes to fill, but I think Eric is a great candidate there. He's fantastic. Anybody else? Seeing none, can I have the roll call vote, Mr. Fox?
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Perugia?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Mr. Pavilion?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey?
Yes.
Mr. Wargo?
Yes.
Dr. Blackstone?
Yes.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, everyone. All right, moving on, student travel request, Dr. Hartzell.
It is recommended that the board approve student travel request items number 1 through 5 as listed.
So moved.
Dr. Blackstone, second.
Second.
Chuck? Any discussion on any of those? Seeing none, can I have the roll call vote, Mr. Fox?
Mr. Perugia?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
Yes.
Mr. Mobilia?
Yes.
Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Brody?
Yes.
Mr. Wargo?
Yes.
Dr. Glystone?
Yes.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, everyone. All right, staff travel requests, we have none. Curriculum.
Alright, Mr. Emick and I, we're gonna review, just give a preview actually of our, Atlas platform, which is our curriculum platform. So I'm gonna have Mr. Emick come on up. And, we're both going to go ahead and share. I'm gonna select a course here, give me a second. Start with art. So Atlas is our online platform, for, all of our curriculum, so we'll have all our curriculum maps on here, and, sometime probably towards the end of April, we'll be launching, the parent component, but we just wanted to share what our teachers have been working on, because we're very excited about everything that they have done. Oops, sorry about that. Yep.
It's a little finicky.
My mouse is dying, so I'm sorry. My computer's dying too. Yeah?
Mr. Wilson?
That's mouse report.
What was the user? There we go. Oh, nope. See, it wasn't the user.
It does work very nicely, so.
It's not the platform, so, we're very excited, so I'll just start in and then I'll have Mr. Emick. One of the things that we have asked our teachers to incorporate into, their individual classes, this is specifically Art 2, so it's elementary art, would be, the course description, and then, this will be our curriculum maps, as you can see throughout the course of the year, the different topics. And then I'm gonna go into, the first quarter, and parents will be able to see this eventually. All of the standards, do you wanna go into?
Sure,
I'll let him go into, cause we're doing stage 1 right now. And this is what we're hoping to be able to put out at the end of April for the public.
Let me first start by just taking a moment to share with the board and the community that as of last count, I believe we have 264 courses district-wide that are offered to the children of the Northeast School District. Now, to put that or to clarify just a little bit, Dr. Hartzell has the Art 2 plan up here. That would be equivalent to art for all of our second grade students. Art at the elementary school will span kindergarten up through 5th grade. So one teacher's teaching art, but there is a course that will be drafted and organized for each of the grade levels as the kids traverse all 6 grades here at the elementary school. So you saw that the landing page essentially will share a description of the course and a unit calendar by year of the different units of learning that will occur within that course. And then as you dig into and dive into each of those learning units, we have identified some very specific categories that will share additional information, such as the standards, first and foremost. The column on the left-hand side will delve into the PA core, the PA academic, the PA skills, and several other core discipline area types of standards that will be associated with each unit of learning for all 264 courses across the district. On the right-hand side is our Road to Goal initiative, which encompasses the ERE Together initiative of Profile of a Graduate, the PA Career Education and Work Standards, and the PA Career Ready Skills. And so those are statements that teachers are working on identifying that will be very applicable to each unit of learning within their respective courses that they teach. If you scroll down just a little bit, Dr. Marcel, the next two categories, which we feel are extremely important, are the concepts, what students will know, and the competencies, what students will be able to do as a result of the teaching and learning that will take place within each unit over the course of the school year. And then our last two categories will be key terminology and vocabulary, as well as primary resources that may be used by the teachers as they facilitate the learning process for that course. So this is a great example of a specials course here at the elementary school, R2. And again, I want to give a lot of credit to the teachers first and foremost. They have spent a lot of time to work through this. This is a monumental initiative. It's a sizable task. And we have hard copy curriculum maps that were developed over the course of time, over the last 5 to 10 years, dating back to 10 years ago, where we really started to revisit our curriculum at that time in conjunction with the shift into the PA core and the PA standards. However, putting all of this information into a digital database takes time. It takes a lot of effort. So the teachers have been doing a phenomenal job with that. The building administrators have been overseeing that within their respective buildings. And a lot is happening where we can now really hone in on our learning units, our scope and sequence, our pacing throughout the course of the school year, and things of that nature within this digital database. So we're very excited about that. And,
I'm trying to get, we do want to share at least one learning map from each building level.
Just click to the side there, John, or something, it'll come up. There you go.
So this is an English course, and again, lists all of the units here on the left side. So a parent can select any unit. So if they want to know what are they learning, in February, so they can click on February, and it'll bring up all the standards to that unit. Same thing, core concepts, the competencies are all listed here. And again, the resources and key terminology and vocabulary. So again, I want to reiterate, our teachers are working really hard. There's a lot of content that goes into every single unit that is being taught. So they're doing an outstanding job. And again, we're only in phase 1 of this, but we would like to, release some of the sections to the public, at least the curriculum maps and minimally the standards that go along with each unit. So it's phenomenal what our teachers are doing. And then I want to share another course for middle school.
And as Dr. Hartzell is pulling that next course up, ultimately the end product, the end result of all of this work will be a link on our school district website that will be able to be clicked, and will take anyone that wants to view our curriculum to a resource center that will kick off this platform, and board members, teachers, parents, community members, whoever would like to view that can go right into that link and have full access to courses across the district.
Now we have a sample of a health class that we have in our middle school. So, and you'll see this is by quarters because of how middle school is taught. So again, all of the standards for the units, they're in a drop down for the teachers to select them. The concepts and the competencies, just across the board, the same systematic approach to every single unit in the entire district.
Yep.
So again, we're only in phase 1. This is a living, breathing system, so it's will be continuously changing. But we're excited, and like I said, we're hoping to launch at least a part of the public platform at the end of April.
Appreciate it.
And we had a chance to look at it, and that atlas is, you saw a little preview of it. It is an amazing program to showcase what every student is learning.
Yep.
And how they're learning, the competencies, everything is, it's a great program.
And once we further get into the phase two, we will be able to download, and create reports on, for example, especially, it will really help, with our standardized testing. For example, if we're testing algebra and math, and when we look at, our standards, how many times have we taught that standard? So it'll actually dig down to all of the standards that were selected, for that one particular unit. So we can tell, oh, they hit that standard one time, they hit that standard 20 times. So we'll be able to, dig deep into some reports from the platform.
Perfect, appreciate it. A lot of hard work, appreciate it, thank you. Okay, moving on, additional educational operational functions, Dr. Hartzell.
Let me get the agenda back up. It is recommended that the board approve additional educational operational functions, items number 1 and 2 as listed.
Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Glenn?
Second.
Corey? All right, any discussion on either one of those, 1 or 2? Jeff, you
Yeah, discuss on number 2, regarding the dissolution of the Northeast Rec Commission. So the Northeast Rec Commission is an intergovernmental agreement amongst the Northeast Borough, Northeast Township, and the Northeast School District. And the most recent document was approved, I think it was in the spring of last year, in 2024. And there's language specific in there for the dissolution of where the assets go. And the assets are reverted back to the 3 governmental entities who are parties to that agreement, and that's why the funds have to go back to the 3 municipalities in a dry share. The second question, which we were gonna have a motion on here as well to donate the district's portion to the Northeast Education Foundation for the benefit of student recreational programming. And it could be the new group could make application to that group. We were informed that that is not a legal process or move that we can make, but it would actually, the fund will stay at the district, and if that group makes a request to the district, and we contract with them for them to provide recreational programming to our students or community, then the board could approve that at that time. And as I mentioned in the email the other day, as we modified that, at the time we didn't have a formal request, and I did get additional information. They are looking for the a little Ritter type football program and to replace some helmets. And the group is making application to the Northeast Community Foundation and is also hoping that the 3 municipalities will assist in some way for that. So there'll be a page 2 to this, if the board's desire is to support that type of programming, we would have to enter into a contractual arrangement to have recreational programming provided by that organization, which then the funds could be transferred through that document. What we still have going on right now, as of the date of the dissolution, something that is happening currently, we still have lap swim happening. We have AM lap swim. I'm not sure if the PM swim is going. If it wasn't, it probably will come back now that swim season. Once they get past their district and state competitions, I would imagine the evening swim will probably start back up again. And that current arrangement is the school district invoices we'll say the current and now former in 30 days Northeast Rec Commission. We invoice them for the lifeguard, our pool lifeguard wages, and then the Northeast Rec Commission treasurer pays that bill back to the school district. So there could also be an opportunity there for the school to work out an arrangement with the new entity to provide the lifeguard services with those funds as well. So we have some opportunities to continue student recreation programming, and if it's the desire of the board for our 1/3 share to go and be dedicated to that purpose, we can make that happen. In the meantime, if the funds, when they come, I will designate them into what is called a deferred revenue account. It's not a separate bank account, but it is a separate fund within our balance sheet where I'll park the money until further direction, and we'll take it as it comes. The new group, has already transitioned. We have the, certificate of insurance for the swimming program. We have a copy of their 501c3, which, is nice as well, so we know that we are dealing with a, bona fide, legit nonprofit organization, to, take over what the Northeast Rec Commission, the intergovernmental group, had done for 50+ years. So it's nice to know that, I think it's a long time coming, and, with the school transitioning to offering the summer learning lab, component for the educational part, and to, shift the, we'll say the recreational athletic activities, to this other group. I think it's long overdue, but I think it's, a start of a new partnership.
Appreciate that.
That was probably long-winded. Tim, if I missed anything or misspoke, okay, thanks.
Appreciate it. Any other, conversations? Discussion, anything? No? Alright, I will roll call vote for items 1 and 2.
Mr. Luke? Yes. Mr. Madelia? Yes. Mrs. Phillips?
Yes.
Mrs. Rhodey?
Yes.
Mr. Wargo?
Yes.
Dr. Gladstone?
Yes.
Mr. Boyd?
Yes.
Mr. Craig?
Yes.
Mr. Brugia?
Yes.
9-0.
Thank you, everybody. Number 3, board discussion. Let's talk about video recording, public board meetings. Who wants to? Anybody want to talk? You want to go over some of the results that Dr. Flystone worked up? Dr. I'm sorry. Wow. How am I doing?
It's almost 9 o'clock.
It's almost 9 o'clock. That's my bedtime.
Y'all passed me just with some questions, so I did, survey all the other, superintendents, received, 17, or 18 responses. Of those, 11 do not record. One, his did not get on there, but that would be 12, but I don't have it in writing. So 12 no, and then 7 do, and one of those in that 7 is the Erie County Tech School, because he filled it out too, he happened to be in there when I was doing the survey. Another question, we just asked who records it, if they were doing it. Some had IT, department, some had an outside resource that records, the meetings, and then we asked if there was any cost, and then, a few of the district use, a Zoom membership, which is around, they just said around $1,000 a year. So those are the questions I asked. I believe those are the ones that you asked me to get, so kind of split, probably more no than yes, but that's where we were at.
Any discussion? Anybody? Any thoughts?
Well, this is like the 4th time I'm sorry, this is like, it's been brought up a number of times, so I think we need to have a discussion about it. So we got some information, whether you want to use that or not, but how do we feel when it's, like, we understand that some do and some don't. How do we feel as a board, whether these meetings should be recorded? In this meeting alone, we've had a number of issues come up where, you know, I understand what Mr. Senate is saying about what should legally be there, but sometimes that feels like we're playing some games here, right? It feels like it's like when one of my students says, "They're not late," when they're standing in the doorway when the bell rings.
Right.
Right, I'm not late, I'm in the room. I don't know if I wanna, you know, that bothers me a little bit, and I feel like we're playing this 1 foot in, 1 foot out game. If it's, my personal feeling is that I think we should start recording them.
Do you wanna make a motion, make a vote on it?
Well, I wanted to have a discussion first.
You have to have a motion.
We can have, if you wanna make a motion, we can talk.
Oh,
A
yeah,
motion to
okay.
discuss.
Make a motion to discuss.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve or reject?
I make a motion to
So-
approve recording these meetings.
All right, we got a motion to approve
Second.
recording, second by Glenn. All right, discussion. Thoughts?
Sorry about the
No,
confusion.
you're fine, we're fine. You're fine. Discussion.
I don't think we have to go the Zoom route, because that's $1,000 out of pocket.
Yes.
I think it's very easy that if we set something up on the school website, and I think another thing we need to look at or talk about, so I'm just putting this out there, is how long do we wanna keep these videos? I mean, I don't know what kind of stories you have, I'm not saying we should keep 10 years worth of videos, there's really no need for that. But I don't think there shouldn't be an issue. I realize the concern of putting up on Facebook, the school's Facebook page, but people share stuff off the school's page on Facebook anyway, so I'm not sure what the difference is. I would recommend putting it on the school website, that way you've only got people that should be, or basically associated with the district. They're gonna know about it, and they're gonna wanna go and look, and watch the video. I mean, that's just an idea.
So, how long though? Like, how long are the meetings? Like, what seems to be appropriate?
Quarter,
Huh?
school quarter.
Yeah.
School quarter?
That sounds good.
What is
And
the?
then, so like every quarter we delete, and then we start over with session one.
It would be a rolling.
Yeah.
Is there any potential to do this through Google Meet, Mr. Wilson?
There is, yes.
What's the cost for that?
We already have Google Schools, so
There would not be any cost.
There wouldn't be any cost, so there's, somebody would have to download Google, whatever it is, Google Meet.
No, we just put a link out to the internet.
How secure is Google? I mean, I'm assuming it's secure, but I just did a lecture on cyber intelligence today, so.
It's scary what can be done.
It's a public meeting though.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what does, we're not filming children, we're filming us. So, does it have to be secure? We're not talking about anything very sensitive. It's public. So,
Open source, right?
I mean,
That would be
say-
open source information.
just let Google Schools do it, save it for a quarter. I think we should make it available upon request, maybe, I don't know.
So if we're gonna Google Chrome this, is it just the board members who are on camera, or is everybody in the room on camera?
If you do it, put your cameras right in
Yeah.
everybody in the room. Yeah, Jimmy, talking, I think I'm torn on this. There's pros and cons and negatives and positives on both sides. I think we brought a lot of good points up. I think Elaine, you brought up, about people attending the meetings, and they might not want to attend the meeting if they are, recorded, which I know they are now, but, we're actually putting it up on our website, so that's completely different.
Yeah, and I think those that are on the fence about participating in a meeting, that could deter them.
That could deter them, and that's not what we want. We want people to come participate and talk.
That's why you only show the board. I have no problem with just showing the board.
So.
They're gonna be tied, whoever's questioning, or whoever's wants to make a comment or whatever is gonna be tied into the audio of the video. And like he said.
And maybe they don't want that.
We've had a
Well,
lot of
then they
people,
won't.
you know, say I'm nervous from people talking in front of people. So we want to encourage communication.
As it is right now, we don't have much public participation. But I do know there are several friends of mine that have hearing disabilities or whatever, but they're set up in their home where they could sit back and watch it, and they live in the area, they're interested, they wanna know where their tax money is going.
They don't watch us live.
They can't, every time they, it's not,
They don't
I can't
join
hear
the
'em.
meeting virtually? I mean, they have that option too.
I can ask them. I still don't see the harm in recording the meetings.
I personally disagree with it.
I disagree too, like, we live stream the basketball games, everybody quit going. So we want people not to come, do that, but we want people to come. We want them to come to the football game, we wanna come to the basketball game, we wanna come to school events. You put it on TV, they're not gonna go. So I think it's a bad idea.
ask the hard question. If we don't do this, people are gonna be like, what are they trying to hide?
Nobody's stopping.
Nothing, it's a public meeting and everybody's invited. Everybody's invited, they can join cyber now and not necessarily in person. The opportunity is there for everybody.
People that work during this
So to Nick's point, it is already being live streamed, right?
Yeah.
If you watch, if you join virtually.
Right, so I mean,
And star 67 then.
so we're still getting some participation there. I just feel like I like the idea of it being recorded this way, it's just it's a more of a record for us.
Then there's a record,
It seems
it's
to have
only
an
a
issue.
quarter. Every 3 months, it's gonna be deleted and start over again. I don't think that's too much to ask for.
Well, time, we still have to vote to approve it, and then.
I understand, but we're still in the discussion stage, which is good.
Right. Well, we do have a motion to vote.
Correct.
So that's where it's at. Personally, I am on the fence, but we do have a lot of individuals that talk, they say, I'm nervous, I don't wanna be here. We start throwing the camera in here where they're gonna be recorded, possibly used online somewhere, taken out of text, cybersecurity, you know, my company's big, Katie, you said you just dealt with it. There's a lot of issues. I appreciate you recording. I think it's fantastic. I'm gonna vote. My vote is no at this point. I just think it's going to, like Nick said, maybe inhibit, and I mean, the same thing, inhibit people from talking, expressing their need because they don't wanna be captured. They want their ideas, but they don't wanna be captured. We had a young gentleman tonight, fantastic, but holding that paper out, you know, he couldn't do it. We wanna encourage people to talk, and I think putting them on video recording, even for a quarter, I think that's gonna be a little too much. My vote would be no at this juncture. That would be my vote. That's just my 2 cents. Anybody else? Alright, so we got a motion, so, let's do a roll call vote. Mr. Fox, please. This will be to accept, the video recording.
Mr. Avila?
No.
Mrs. Phillips?
No.
Mrs. Rhodey?
No.
Mr. Wargo?
No.
Dr. Blackstone?
No.
Mr. Boyd?
No.
Mr. Craig?
Yes,
Mr. Peruggia?
Yes.
Mr. Luke?
No.
7-2, motion fails.
just remember, elections are coming.
We appreciate everybody. I know sometimes it's hard to make decisions. We all work together as a board. It's very, this is why we're a board of 9. Appreciate everybody's vote. Okay, moving on. Items for future presentation, discussion, and/or board action. Dr. Harden's out.
Hopefully we'll have our approval of the IE5 budget on March 6th, the Northeast High School Program of Studies for 25-26. Our budget process timeline preliminary presentation, March 20th, final budget presentation, April 3rd, proposed final budget approval, April 24th, and final budget approval. And I wanna remind everybody, we made changes all the way up till the final, just because it's the proposed final. So we do continue to make changes as we're going through the process. Upcoming district events, high school dance symposium, Friday, February 28th, and Saturday, March 1st. And, more Saturday, March 22nd.
Work season already. All right, public participation, any
Jim.
items of,
Jim, could I present what else I have? It'll only be a couple minutes, as it regards to the Archway.
well,
It was supposed to be, because he said, and I think it was him, he's like, well, can't we talk about it tonight and add it to the agenda?
not on the agenda.
We're in public participation.
I stopped him
Members of the
before we
board
got
are
there.
members of the public, they can make a comment.
We can talk about it.
Thank you. Again, it's gonna be brief.
That's fine. So again, public participation, items of concern, *6 to mute online.
Yeah.
James, bud?
Okay, anyway, all right.
Start. Go ahead.
So we had the meeting on February 5th. And never mind, let me back up. First time I heard about the Arch project was on January 23rd, when we had the subcommittee meeting as far in regards to the Facilities Commission, I'm sorry, I'm tongue-tied. Facilities Committee. We all said no. So we thought it was off the project. It was like a couple days after that, Mackenzie called me up and said, hey, they ordered the steel anyway for the arch. I'm like, really? Are you kidding? He's like, no. He said, I just got off the phone with the borough manager and he's upset too because he said he got the go-ahead. So I did some digging on my own. I didn't use any of my friends. All this stuff I did on my own. First off, the one thing that really kind of makes me angry the most is I send the administration emails, and I also tag in the current president. I asked for this to be added to tonight's agenda. It got ignored. I think the administration is forgetting, and this is my personal opinion, take it for what it is, have forgotten that they work for the board, at the pleasure of the board, and of the taxpayers. Let me finish, Katie.
I just wanna know what the agenda item is, that's all.
Huh?
What are you referring to?
What is the agenda item?
Oh, it's
I
for
just
the
wanna know
Archway.
what was supposed to be.
Because it was on the
Okay.
agenda and then it wasn't. They took it off. We all got the thing that they're gonna take it off. I immediately sent an email to the administration asking for it to be put back on because it needs to be talked about. It's being talked about, whether we want to admit it, like it or not, it's being talked about in the public, social media, whatever. And it got ignored. That doesn't make me very happy. It makes me think that something's going on and you're trying to whitewash things, especially when I see from the last meeting, they had her comments in there, but they didn't have mine. And I specifically asked on February 5th, is it a rumor that the steel was purchased? And I was told, we'll look into it. But, and I got to dig in some more, I made 3 phone calls. 2 to the borough, trying to get a hold of Pat, and 1 to Gene Davis. Gene Davis told me they have paperwork that the steel was purchased for the district. So it would only take another phone call for me to go get it and prove. Also, I never did hear from Pat, so I reached out to one of the borough members, and they coaxed it out of him. And I'm gonna read the statement. This is from Pat. In a meeting on January 21st, the school superintendent, business manager, and facilities manager told Robin Goodnow and me, Pat, that if the project's costs were under $6,000, that the project was a go. I then ordered the steel through Gene Davis for the project, with the township being made aware of that order via an email on January 30th. I also, after I got this, I sent another email requesting all communications, email or otherwise, between the district and the borough to find out what was going on. That got ignored. And what really set this thing off, and somebody else reached out to me, and I'm trying to find the paper because I don't want to misquote. And this was on February 9th. You were exactly right. Your superintendent already established this plan for an arch since the summer. There was an email sent from the Northeast Borough to the school placed at the end of January. 2 board members know this information. A citizen shared this information with them. So, what is it? What are we trying to hide? That's my main question. I'm just an ordinary guy. I don't have any special skills, other than I can weld pretty good. But something stinks here. We were told at we said no on the 23rd that it was done. Then I get confirmation that it was ordered on January 21st. So do you mean to tell me that two of the other administration officials that attended that meeting knew that it was already ordered? That's what I'm thinking. I don't have anything else to go on. I think this needs to be looked into. Seriously, instead of keep tossing back and forth the good neighbor, I think we're ready to throw the borough under the bus, and I don't think the borough really did anything wrong, other than the fact that they're still spending, from what I understand, the borough was gonna donate the labor to the district, but it's still taxpayer money that's being spent. All of this stuff should have had board approval before they told Pat to go ahead, and he called Gene Davis. We didn't find out about it till 2 days afterwards, right, Nick? I'm not making that up. Go ahead.
I just wanna be, like, why only loop in some of the board and not the whole board?
Because I was only given names of certain board members, and I'm being polite by not calling them out.
But like, if all of this was going down, I would want to know about it as soon as possible, and not just.
Maybe I'm wrong, but maybe we should do that in an executive
in the
session.
middle of a building, in the middle of public comment. Like, I would have loved to be on page.
But these questions are already in the public. Are you paying attention?
I am paying attention, but what I'm saying, if you had all of this, you had all of these receipts, you had all of this information, you only gave it to some board members and not others?
I didn't give any of this to anybody until
Well,
tonight.
you said you were sending emails.
I didn't send any emails. I made 3 phone calls. People reached out to me, and there are 2 public individuals.
So, the piece of papers that you have,
Yes, ma'am.
can you please forward them to me so I can review them as well?
Of course.
Because I feel like you have something here, however, I would have liked to have the information so that I could have looked through it as well.
And for full transparency, on this one, I left some of it out because I think some of it might be conspiracy. I only read what I needed to read. I left it whole. But anybody wants to read it, you're more than welcome to. The only thing I deleted was the person's name. I will not dox people. People come to me with questions, I'm gonna try, it's like, something doesn't sound right.
Of all the work that you did anybody find a purchase order from this district with somebody's name on it to buy this? That's where we should look first, because if we don't have that, this is all just a bunch of talk. It's probably a big misunderstanding.
I think your point is that that's kind of the problem here, and I mean, is this a miscommunication? Maybe, but what's worse is, we as a board, I came in halfway for whatever incident that was, and since my time here, we have always been ridiculed for not being transparent, and there's some other agenda going on. This incident makes all those other claims look so much more tangible to even people that are our fans, right? And so we all now look foolish because of whomever's fault this is. We are getting the backlash to this, and I think that needs to be addressed. And I'm glad we are talking about it in public, because that's also something that seems to not be something that is forthcoming with this group. And this shows, I think, some of that stuff. That's why I wanted the video recording. This way we're not playing the he said, she said game. I mean, this is, to your point, I do think there's something here, and it could be a miscommunication, but somebody messed up. And we, as a board, can't take the blame for that. Somebody needs to be like, hey, my bad, I'm sorry, but nobody's doing that. Instead, they're coming up with excuses. My favorite one is, oh, they purchased that for something else. That wasn't talked about at the borough meeting. Like, what do we?
Chuck, were you at the borough meeting?
No,
Okay, so how do you know that?
I saw
I can verify it because I watched the
we
videos.
recorded it, and I did watch the videos.
I was at meeting.
I understand that, but okay, so my question will be very specific to you. At the borough meeting, did they tell you that you heard, or that the metal was purchased for another project that wasn't the Archway? No, it wasn't.
No, it was not. However, in the public discussion, in the conversation between a community member and the borough manager, it was clear to me that, and the board member, the council members made this clear, that Mr. Gerline can do whatever he wants, because all they do is, like, he does everything and they just vote yea or nay. So because of that, I think that they don't have a check and balance, and I would just refer to the public minutes that we have in our, just for this school year, it's 532 pages. If you go in there and you look through all those 532 pages, every bill that we pay, every check that Jeff pays for, puts the signature on, is in those minutes. And if you have a question about them, you can call him and ask him about them. That is not true with the borough, because Mr. Gerline, and this was brought up evidently in the meeting, that he can purchase whatever he wants, whenever he wants, without authority of the borough. And that to me is more alarming than this whole issue that's come to this board.
I think you raise a good point there, but I don't think anybody in this room or in this board has accused the district of spending money yet on this project, and I don't think we did, so I'm not insinuating that happened. But what it does sound like is that there was a conversation that shouldn't have happened. And
Maybe
instead
there
of us-
maybe there was a miscommunication in the conversation,
I think
that
we
he
identified
made an
that.
assumption. This district doesn't do squat. You can't even buy a single paperclip in this district without a PO. So if he didn't have a PO, that is not on us
I
at all.
don't think that we bought it. I'm not saying that we did that. I'm simply saying that there's a problem here. And
Yeah, Chuck, I think there was a miscommunication between the borough and the district. I think, the borough thought that they were further ahead in this project than the district did, because right in Jeff's report, the capital, project report, he stated that this was put on just to talk about. No taxpayer dollars would be spent on that project, and private donors were being correct? I mean, private donors were being sought. So there was never any intention for taxpayer dollars to, it was right, Jeff Fox stated that. And so I think there was a miscommunication between the borough and the district. Pat thought they were further ahead, he went ahead and ordered the steel. I mean, Pat knows Jeff has to get approval, Michelle has to get approval from the board in order to purchase steel or for a project or, for a capital improvement project. So, again, I think it was just a miscommunication, and unfortunately it happened, and.
I sent you all the video.
I'm sorry, it's not your turn.
This is all part of it right here, because it said, this was discussed, and I'm assuming it's the same three individuals, and that's assumption.
If Aaron, you're talking about the video from the borough?
Yeah.
You weren't at the last meeting, you weren't taping at the last
I
meeting.
most certainly was
I
at the
don't think
last
you were, so.
meeting.
She was.
Most
I watched the
certainly,
video.
and I sent you all the video.
Okay, then it's on there, so.
School board.
School board, yeah.
This was talked about, according to Pat,
I was on the phone.
first discussed in October of 2024, again in November of 2024 by Dr. Hartzell, but he hadn't heard anything about it else again until January of 2025. He did not know this wasn't approved by the board, because he was going under the good neighbor thing, because we get our salt that's on the sidewalks and the parking lots, whatever, from the borough.
Does the borough invoice us for that, Mr. Fox?
Yes.
Because that was discussed, you were at the meeting. That was discussed at the
I'm
borough
just putting it
meeting.
out here so that it's in the public, that we pay an invoice.
Correct.
And the board approves that payment?
Yes.
I wouldn't.
Huh?
I wouldn't.
Well, no, because you did not give neither Jeff nor I, you're believing, a conversation, so I believe believe.
I'm not believing anything. We need to look into it.
Please don't, read.
I didn't appreciate your comment earlier, before the meeting even opened up either.
Let Dr. Hartzell talk. She let
I'm
you
done.
talk, Glenn, let her talk.
I wanna get through
Please.
the timeline, because I feel, and if, I'm sorry, if some of the public wants to leave, I know of my administrators, I'm not gonna make you all stay and listen to all of this, but if you would like to stay, you can stay. So I'll go through the timeline. In September of 2024, we had a meeting at the borough regarding the police MOU. So we're just after the meeting was over, we were having a casual conversation. I said, oh gosh, those arches in the park are nice. I said that. I said, they're nice. And Pat goes, oh, Robin did that. He works for us. And I asked him, I'm like, do you know about how much they cost? They would look great. And it was a concept and an idea. So Robin happened to be in the building. He came into the meeting and he said, yeah, I did that. I can draw a picture of what it could look like. So on November 8th, we received an email from Pat asking to meet regarding, the art project. And the email also included a picture that Robin drew. It was really nice, what it could look like. And he requested a meeting. I did not respond or set up a meeting. Christmas passed, Thanksgiving passed, and I was, I forgot to set up a meeting. So I set up the meeting for January 21st to further discuss the concept of the archway. Mr. Wingeter, I asked him to come, because I didn't even know if it was something we could even do on our campus. I'm like, can we even do it? And so I asked him to come. Mr. Fox was there at the SRO meeting, so I asked him to come as well. So we discussed the possibilities of the arch and where it could potentially go and what would need to be considered. Bill discussed some items like cable, ditch, lighting, considerations of weather, and Pat said, anything y'all need, because we have a great relationship with the borough and the township. Anything you need, we'll try and help. And then Jeff and I hung around and we talked to, actually, before Bill left, we were sitting around like, well, what do you think something like this would cost? And then Pat brought up, he's like, our project costs around $6K. And then Jeff stated, and Jeff, you can chime in anytime if I am misstepping, because I'm going back recreating some of the things. So Jeff said it would probably be triple materials for the scope of a project, because ours would have to be bigger. So that's maybe where the money, whatever, came up from. So after that meeting, during the meeting, Bill left with Robin. They were just gonna go down and measure, can we even do it? Would it fit? Is it gonna be too big if we try to do it across the road? We also talked about getting final costs, because Jeff mentioned, because we have a facilities meeting, do you think you can get us exact quotes so we can have the conversation at the facilities committee meeting? That was it. We left, we went down, talked to Bill and Robin, because Bill and Robin were still down at the, looking at the street and potential places that the arch could be. And that was it. That was the end of our conversation, so we were expecting to get a quote. On January 23rd, the facilities committee did meet, and we all heard, about that. They talked a little about the archway, and then they discussed looking at, some other possibilities of sign as well. We had our agenda review, and we talked about the archway, and we talked about, well, let's have a board discussion on the archway, and that was during Jeff's meeting. And you heard what Jeff discussed about the arch. The arch was never meant to be on the capital projects. It should have probably been under just the discussion item, because at this point, it was just a concept. How we've always done things in this district, we gather all the information, we get everything together, and then we do a presentation to the board, kind of like we did several this evening with the different presentations we held this evening. So that's how it got on the agenda. On January 30th, and and this is what you're probably talking about, and I have no idea what you were talking about, because I don't have the information. There was, an email, I believe that Pat sent to Jeff and I, regarding, he's gonna, I don't have the email, but I will find it, moving forward with some steel. I didn't open up the email, Jeff did not open up the email until after the rec commission, when Mac, I'm not sure how it came out, we heard that, you know, the steel had already been purchased. I asked Jeff if he was aware of it, he said no, I wasn't aware of it, so he went back and opened up his email and saw. So when you asked that question at the last board meeting, were you aware? We did not know if it was purchased or not. It was just an email. We had not verified that at the point, with Pat Garoline. So that's how that came about. On February 3rd, there was a rec commission meeting in which that was talked about, and that's how we found out that potentially the steel was purchased for the project. So we did not get a hold of Pat that day. We did not get a hold of them until way after, you know, our meeting, actually till right before the borough meeting. And then, and Jeff did reply to Pat saying, you know, do not purchase the materials. We do not, you know, have an approved arch project at this point in time. So that's kind of where we are. I did go back and I listened to the whole transcript of the borough meeting. I did not attend that meeting, but we have an incredible relationship with the borough and the township, and I am not sure, but I am gonna go on public record to say that when the question was asked by you, Mrs. Backus, you said, did Dr. Hartzell and Jeff Fox tell you to order the whatever steel? And he said, yes, that is a false statement. We did not tell him to order the steel. That was incorrect. Further down the line, I believe Mr. Buchholz asked a follow-up question. Did you send them an email, or did you receive an email asking if they ordered it? He said, no, that's a correct statement. And then I believe there was a follow-up question that you asked, which was, did you send them a receipt? And he said, yes. That is a false statement. We do not have a receipt. So that is where we're at. I want to go on record. Neither Mr. Fox or Mr. Wingner nor myself, you know, approved the project. Again, I do really feel that unfortunately something so small blew up, and I am going to, if you want somebody to apologize, Mr. Perugia, I'm apologizing to the board. I'm sorry that you had to go through this. This was, in my opinion, a great concept, a great idea. We were still in the concept phases, but I want to go on record, and I am planning on attending the March 3rd Borough Council meeting, and I am going to say the same thing. And I was hoping to be able to have a conversation with Pat prior to this meeting, because I did not want it to be in public, but since y'all put it out there and you're throwing, you know, saying inappropriate things about Mr. Fox and myself, because I am not going to be accused a liar. I am proud of myself, I'm proud of my character, I'm a person of honesty and integrity, and I know right now my parents would be very proud of me if they were here on earth. So I want to go on, I'm going to go on public record, and I'm sorry, and I'm going to add one more thing. For 5 years, this board has been abused. I've been publicly abused, and I don't appreciate it. I am a human being too. I have feelings, I have families. When you post things, when you put things on Facebook that are not true, that's libel, that's slander, and I'm gonna start to take action if this does not stop, because I don't appreciate it. This is an incredible school district. This community should be very proud of our teachers, of our administrators, and all of our staff, because they work extremely hard to provide an outstanding education to our children, and they are doing just that. That's all I have to say. We are here for our kids, not to dog and pony show. That's all I have to say. And I would like to motion to adjourn if we can.
Mr. Warder.
Well, go ahead, Mr. Fox.
Since I've been thrown into these accusations as well, I reiterate what Dr. Hertz has said, but the January meeting with Mr. Gerline, we have a great working relationship. They help us, we help them. I really believe it was a misunderstanding in that meeting of what his interpretation and our interpretation of what was said as how far we were on the project. It was amount is feasible for something to be considered, knowing going into this, what are we looking at? Do we have to have a trust type build thing where it might be $40,000, $50,000, or is it something more reasonable? And when I put on for a capital project item at $20,000, I'm giving you a conservative estimate because I've learned through my 19 years that things don't always come in at original estimate. That, okay, did we account for possible cranes? Did we account for possible concrete? Did we account for some of those things that, it's more than just metal and paint. And so when I present something to you, I present to you an item with the full cost as best I can. We had a situation where Mr. Winger and I had a rough go with the turf project. And I don't know that you remember, but when there was an issue and we had a cost overrun, I did apologize and state to you, I missed it. And I brought that up. It is very discouraging when my integrity gets questioned, and I question why I'm in the profession anymore, because in 19 and a half years of being slung mud and crap, it gets old. It really does. I know what I do for the district. I know what I did for my former district. If you look in the freaking parking lot and you see what time my car pulls out of here, you understand the dedication I have to this district. This is my home. This is my community. I'm passionate about what I do here. I treat this school as if it's my own property. I make recommendations for the facility long-term. I make recommendations in the annual budget to be frugal and that we can afford it easy to go. Nobody wants surprises. Nobody wants to have to be caught with a situation where they have to pay something unexpected. And it's frustrating to know that keyboard warriors can put whatever crap they want to out on the internet and have no accountability for it. It's discouraging, it really is. And as my health continues to deteriorate by being employed here, I have to make some decisions, and I don't know exactly what my long-term decisions are gonna be, but it's been a long road, my time at Northeast School District, and I'd like to think that I'll continue on, but my family and my health might ultimately come to a decision that I'll go to a place where I don't have to take pot shots on a daily basis. And I'm sorry, this is stuff that's probably more shared over a cup of coffee or maybe a beer. But it gets old. It gets old. And if you're questioning my integrity, then maybe it's time for me to move on. And that's it. It is what it is. When I make a mistake, I let you know. And I've done that for my private employers. I've done that for my public employers. So if you take the word of people who are on the internet and only have one side of any story, so be it.
All right, continuing on, I appreciate everybody's thoughts on that.
Can I just address one more thing? Glenn, I'll apologize on here. I just looked because when you said I sent you an email, I have not opened it yet. So it is on here. If you would like verification that I have not opened it yet, the one you sent me yesterday or the day before, it's on there. So.
Continuing on, we're gonna continue on public participation. Anybody wanna add anything?
Thank you. Jenny Schwartz, you have my address, I've been with this district for a long time. I worked for the district for 10 years. My kids went to school here for 13 years, 15 if you count preschool. I went through 3 superintendents, 2 business managers, and a whole bunch of other changes in and out of this district. And Dr. Hartzell is the first person that I can say I've dealt with in any of these people that I can certainly say hesitant. There's been some doubts, there's been some other people that, you know, are also great, don't get me wrong, but I don't doubt her integrity. And I don't doubt Mr. Fox either. I have dealt with Mr. Fox as the building secretary, so I've had to do budgets with him. I've had to do information for unions with him because I was a union president for the support staff. I've had to deal with Dr. Hartzell with employee issues as the union president, and they have always dealt with me and everybody that they've dealt with integrity. Are they perfect? No. Have they made mistakes? Probably. But I do not doubt their integrity. I don't expect them to be perfect. And I called them out with integrity. And that's okay, because then they come back, as Mr. Fox said, I made a mistake, I'm sorry. And yes, this negativity, you wanna know why people are driving to cyber school? Because it's free. That's what I hear. It's free. They don't realize it's not free for us. And they're driving out of here because of the negativity that's always being said about this district. But this is a great district, or I wouldn't be here. I was not born here. I was not raised here. I was born and raised in Detroit. Not a good district. This is a great district. And I wish people would acknowledge that and stop looking for trouble, stop looking for conspiracies, and stop making problems. If you have questions, ask them. If you have issues, talk about them. But don't believe in conspiracies, and don't just talk amongst yourselves. And I'm going to address, I'm sorry, one person, and I'm not supposed to do that, but Mr. Craig. Because you and I have had to go around a time or two on Facebook where you've said some very negative things to me. And some very negative things about our students. You want me to say it out loud? I won't. Never mind. But I just want everybody on this board to realize how much you really are appreciated. Because this is a hard freaking job. Because you get no respect, and you get no appreciation.
I just wanted to comment on the discussion for the public video. I know that you voted on it already, but we didn't have a discussion at all with the public, and you could have put out a survey to the public on how they felt about it as well. On a side note, perhaps this was a miscommunication, you know, maybe timing, but Dr. Hartzell, I have tried to talk to you for 5 years this year, okay? Several lies you have done in email. I have dealt with Nick Mobilia, with my mother, bullying my mother, okay? So there is reason I bring the negativity. I have tried several times to talk and discuss and be
Aaron, you know what, I'm
okay?
gonna respectfully excuse myself because I am not gonna listen to this anymore.
No.
And I don't care if you put it on, because I'm tired of it.
Well,
Because
I'm
I'm tired of
public
you
and I
calling me
would
a
like to
liar, it's
participate, and I would like you to be here as well when I speak.
I am going to.
I don't think that's okay.
You have never responded to me.
I have, and I've also set up several, asking for meetings with you.
That is not true.
I'm gonna, just come get me when she's done.
Make a motion, we have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
No,
We have a,
just adjourn at this point.
we have a public, is there any
more?
Aaron, you wanna, Aaron, any more you want?
I would like gentleman back there.
I know, I'm just asking if Aaron.
No, I'm good.
You good? Okay, sir?
My name's David Reed. You guys have met me before.
I would like to say,
Can you come up?
I can come up, yeah, I can come up, I have no problem being on camera.
Mr. Reed, can you put your address, please?
It's Vine Street, 75. Like I said, you guys have seen me before. I sympathize with you, Mr. Fox, I sympathize with Dr. Hartzell, but at the same time, you guys are community figures. And you have both community. As far as I'm concerned, you know, I don't think it's the archway is the big picture that everybody's looking at. It's the fact that it's distrust, it's dishonesty, and nobody knows. Maybe a few timestamped emails between you and Pat Garowine, maybe, you know, a public forum between the four of you, admitting that somebody was wrong somewhere. That's the point of transparency in the video recordings. I see their points. I don't understand why you can't video record when you're already live streaming. What are you trying to hide? Also, if Mike Craig, as a board member, is asking for the minutes to be minutes, no matter what Senate says, he's a board member. You guys should be on board with that. You all talk. You should be together on this. You know, what's the big deal of putting everything in those minutes? What's the big deal of the public seeing me stand up here and speak for my community, or him defend himself, or Dr. Hartzell defend herself, or you speak? It's unreal. You guys are not a team. You should be ashamed. I came here tonight to ask for you guys to have an executive session, to ask for him and her to resign because of this archway. It's ridiculous. You're adults. Grow together. Be transparent. Let the community know what you're doing. You work for us. Not her, not him, and not him. That's the worst legal counsel you could ever have.
Anybody else?
Carolyn Brown, and my address is on file. I just wanted to say about the recordings also. There's parents that work during these meetings, they can't get on these live streams while they're at work. There's also, when sports are going on at the same time. I've had parents tell me, I can't make it, my child, I mean, you're making them choose between their child and listening to the board meeting. Like, there's other situations, they're not, just because you have it on live stream doesn't mean everyone's available to do that. Because not everybody works a 9-to-5 job. So, I mean, there are people that have told me that they would like to come to the board meetings, but they can't because they work or whatever. So, that's just something to consider also. I don't know if any of you have ever watched any of the, like, Mill Creek has theirs on, YouTube, they have a YouTube channel. And they have a camera set up in the room, and I think, I don't know who does theirs, but they record the meetings as well. So, I mean, if you wanna look at theirs and see how they do it, it might be something simple that the IT guy could do in here.
Appreciate it, Carolyn. Do we have anybody else?
Motion.
Alright, motion to adjourn? Doc, Nick, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye.